Some people transmigrate as skeletons and end up with a harem of 3,000 beauties. Some transmigrate as spiders and can swallow the heavens, the earth, and the very air. But I transmigrated as a tree, and an ornamental willow tree at that. Looking at the strange surroundings, all I want to say right now is, who am I and where am I? I'm clearly a tree, so why can I see everything around me? And I can also clearly feel that I have 50 willow branches on my body, but I can only control one of them. Just then, a plane suddenly flew across the sky. Great. Is this modern society? Maybe it's even the era I lived in during my previous life. Suddenly, 2 bees started buzzing incessantly beside me. I swung my branch and slashed at them. With a snap, both bees were killed instantly. Just as I was admiring my accuracy, a system prompt suddenly popped up before my eyes. Killed 2 bees, gained 0.2 evolution points. Then the system prompted me again. Would you like to use evolution points to strengthen? Looking at the danger-filled environment around me, I chose to strengthen without a second thought. Just like that, I successfully unlocked 3 willow branches. Then I suddenly noticed a beehive up ahead. To level up, I swung my branches and lashed out at it. Before I knew it, I had been in this canyon for half a month. By now, all 50 of my willow branches have been unlocked. I've even mastered a spiral attack. Those incredibly hard boulders were blasted to pieces in an instant under my attack. With this skill, hunting small animals became much easier. Although I'm still just a weak willow tree, I believe that one day, I'll become something like the world tree. One day, while I was reflecting on the fact that I finally didn't have to work 996 anymore, a glob of bird poop suddenly dropped right on my head. It turned out a nest of baby birds had landed on my branches at some point, and they seemed to be young peregrine falcons. Adult peregrine falcons can reach flight speeds of over 270 kilometers per hour. In this world full of mutations, taming them would give me a huge advantage. After all, there are probably many beings like me, and this world has far too many unknowns waiting to be explored. If I don't increase my strength in time, I might meet an untimely death one day. But what I didn't realize was that I had already been targeted by a giant snake hundreds of meters long. One day, while I was hunting small animals as usual, the system suddenly notified me that I could strengthen my roots. Thrilled by the thought that I'd finally be able to run around freely, I immediately used evolution points to strengthen my roots. Suddenly, a piercing pain swept through my entire body. It felt as if countless tentacles were pulling my body apart. Fortunately, it didn't last long. Otherwise, I would have lost my life right here. But the sacrifice was worth it. Look at these thick, powerful roots. Just thinking about it, I know their destructive power must be incredible. But the priority now is to see if I can move. As I tried to pull my roots up with all my might, a tearing pain instantly shot through me. No, it seems strengthening just one root isn't enough. I'll need to strengthen all my roots to be able to move freely. However, these roots can serve as my trump card for now. I can launch surprise attacks from underground during a fight. Just then, there was a sudden rustle in the bushes. It turned out to be an injured little fox, and it looked like it had been poisoned. While I was wondering if I should kill it for evolution points, the system suddenly notified me that willow sap could detoxify and save it. Out of curiosity, I dripped the sap manifested from my willow branches onto the fox. In no time, the little fox was full of energy again. Seeing this, I immediately prepared to kill it and turn it into evolution points. But then, the fox suddenly gave me a flirtatious wink. Then it started rubbing its head all over me. Bold fox demon, how dare you use a charm skill on me? You think you can test me with this? What kind of official couldn't handle a test like this? No, I can't take this. How can I possibly endure it? Forget it, I don't care about the evolution points anymore. I'll just pet it for now. Just as I was wondering why this fox was being so docile, the system suddenly notified me that the red fox had absorbed the willow sap and was preparing to evolve. The next second, a massive mutated red fox suddenly appeared. I was completely stunned. I didn't expect my sap to actually have the power to evolve animals. Seeing that the red fox was human rank level 4, I immediately pulled up my own attribute panel. Ziyu, mutated willow tree, human rank level 9. As expected, there must be beasts in this world stronger than me. And looking at the wounds on the red fox's body, they seemed to be arrow wounds. It seems humans still exist in this world. If I were discovered by humans right now, I wonder if I'd be captured and chopped into pieces. After all, I'm still no match for machine guns and missiles. Just then, the red fox suddenly leaped and vanished before my eyes. Then, not far away, 2 girls were slowly heading in my direction. It turns out their father was buried right beneath me. Every once in a while, they bring offerings to pay their respects to him. I'm speechless right now. I just feel like something is off, but I can't quite put my finger on it. After the two girls finished paying their respects, they said they were going to bathe nearby. Hearing this, I quickly opened my eyes. Don't get the wrong idea, everyone. I just wanted to see if they had left. But the sound of them playing was just too much to bear. So when I tried to turn my head to look, I found that a tree happened to be blocking my view. I endured it like this until midnight, when the two girls finally remembered to go home. Before I knew it, another 2 weeks had passed. The peregrine falcons I raised had all reached level 3 by now. But one day, a mutant golden eagle suddenly burst in. The two sides fought back and forth for a while. Just then, the red fox launched a sneak attack from the side, but was caught by the golden eagle's claws in a second. With a loud boom, the red fox lost its ability to fight. But once the golden eagle landed on the ground, it was my turn to shine. I immediately unleashed a spiral attack, and the level 7 mutant golden eagle became my evolution points. Hearing the system prompt evolution points plus 70, I was beyond thrilled. But if a level 7 golden eagle is this hard to deal with, wouldn't other higher-level mutant beasts be even more troublesome? Luckily, I had the foresight to train a flock of peregrine falcons capable of aerial combat. And that red fox, ever since I saved it last time, it seems it's decided to stay here. Now, I've gained another 70 evolution points. Just as I was wondering if I should use these evolution points to train the peregrine falcons, a massive golden beam of light suddenly flashed across the sky. Following a thunderous crash, my body was split clean in half, and right in front of me, a 100-meter-long giant python was staring me down. This is it, I'm dead. I can't believe I didn't notice such a powerful enemy. This snake must have some kind of stealth skill to hide its presence. I quickly had the system pull up the snake's info panel. Battle axe snake, rank 9. It has a tail like an axe that can cut through anything. It's the natural enemy of all plants. Holy crap, no way. I didn't expect it to be the same level as me. And this thing is specifically designed to counter me. Just then, Little Red suddenly let out a furious roar. It turns out her mother was killed by this battle axe snake. Then, the battle axe snake brought my branches to its mouth and swallowed the trunk whole in one gulp. Seeing this, I knew I was in trouble. Sure enough, after eating my branches, a golden light instantly flashed in the snake's eyes. Then, it launched a fierce attack at me. After another loud crash, the battle axe snake suddenly froze. Because it's indestructible battle axe, it was actually blocked by my tree roots. Don't think I'm afraid of you just because you're rank 9. In close combat, it's not yet certain who will win. Suddenly, the battle axe snake swung its tail at me again. I didn't waste a second and quickly used evolution points to strengthen 3 of my roots. In an instant, the battle axe snake was tightly bound by my roots. Now's my chance. Strengthen all roots. Suddenly, several thick roots burst from the ground. Under my control, they all lashed the battle axe snake's vital spot. The intense pain forced the battle axe snake to spit out a mouthful of blood. But I couldn't bring myself to be happy, because that violent strike only managed to open a small crack. Damn, am I really going to die at its hands? The battle axe snake stared intently at me, but it didn't attack. It was clearly shaken by my previous attack. I quickly released a powerful killing intent, hoping to scare it away. Clearly, my gamble paid off. The battle axe snake was actually terrified. It turned around and slowly walked away in the opposite direction. That was a close call. I almost died right then and there. Luckily, I managed to survive. But that thing definitely won't let this go. Ultimately, my strength is still too weak. Just then, the system suddenly notified me that I could evolve to the next stage. As a green light lit up around me, my severed trunk began to slowly recover and the missing willow branches grew back. Compared to before, I've grown at least 1 size larger. However, what surprised me even more was that the red fox beside me also evolved to rank 7. And those peregrine falcons also evolved to rank 5. It seems they were all affected by my light of evolution. I then ordered the falcons to see which direction that battle axe snake went. As soon as I finished speaking, the falcons took off instantly with lightning speed. I was stunned by this. They're already this fast. So it'll be absolutely insane once they evolve again. Also, besides them, the red fox beside me seems to have changed quite a bit. Now at rank 7, it's not only grown larger, but also looks more dazzling. Just then, cries for help suddenly came from the distance. It was those 2 sisters from last time, running desperately toward me. And behind them was a large pack of ferocious beasts. I reckon these guys were probably attracted by my light of evolution just now. Just as those 2 girls were about to meet their end, the red fox flashed and appeared right in front of them. And the wild boar chasing them was instantly killed. Seeing this, the other fierce beasts immediately surrounded them. But just then, several sharp sounds rang out. It turned out the peregrine falcons circling in the air had attacked. The two sisters were shocked by the scene. They never expected to be saved by a fox and some birds. As more and more fierce beasts gathered, I hurriedly said to Ada and Red Fox, "You two step back, leave the rest to me." As rumbling sounds echoed from the ground, my roots spiraled out like flood dragons the next second. "Today, I'll show you who the real master of this forest is." As soon as I finished speaking, all the roots attacked at once. In just a few moments, I cleared out more than half of the surrounding beasts. Just then, I noticed a mutated bull that could actually withstand one of my attacks. Not bad. It seems some of these beasts actually have some strength. Maybe I should keep a few to raise. I immediately wrapped the mutated bull in my roots, while picking out a few other powerful beasts. As for the rest, they'll all become my evolution points. This battle lasted from dawn until night. Finally, things have quieted down. But the problem isn't over yet. What should I do with these two human girls? If I kill them, that would definitely attract the human army. While thinking, I suddenly came up with a solution. Once the two girls woke up from their coma, I hurriedly wrote on the ground, claiming to be their father. Seeing this, both of them looked completely incredulous. And at that moment, I was breaking out in a cold sweat. I didn't know if this plan would actually work. Then, one of the girls suddenly asked, "Since you're my father, tell me, what are our names?" Hearing this, I immediately called the system to check their information panels. It turned out one was named Xiao Ling and the other Xiao Qing. When I said their names, the two girls instantly filled with tears. I hurriedly transformed my branches into two wooden hairpins and gave them to the girls. For some reason, I actually felt a different kind of emotion toward them. Maybe it's a strange reaction because their father is buried beneath me. Perhaps at this moment, I've truly started seeing them as my own daughters. Then, I learned from them that the outside world was undergoing strange changes. Some planes were exploding after being attacked by birds for no reason, and various massive sea monsters had appeared, especially in the oceans. Experts believe these signs are a sign of spiritual energy recovery, while those in the West call it the awakening of magic. Hearing this, I felt that this world is truly fraught with danger. Just then, Xiaoling suddenly took some meat to feed the wolves. But those vicious wolves didn't bite at all. They bared their sharp fangs. Then, the red fox suddenly gave them a fierce glare, and in the next second, these wolf cubs were instantly terrified and didn't dare move. Seeing this, Xiaoling couldn't stop praising how impressive Xiaohong was. As for me, I was speechless. This brat is really quick to get friendly with everyone. But besides these wolves, I also caught quite a few other fierce beasts. Especially this honey badger. It hasn't stopped causing trouble for a single moment. But now isn't the time to deal with them. Since I just earned so many evolution points, it's time to give myself an upgrade. This advancement not only restored my original body, but also gave me a hallucination skill. I can release a mist covering several kilometers. And within that mist, I can create hallucinatory effects. Next time I encounter the battle axe snake, I'll definitely tear it to pieces. Meanwhile, inside a certain cave, a pair of blood-red eyes were staring intently ahead. Some people are reincarnated as a sword, some as Godzilla. But I was reincarnated as a tree, and a decorative willow tree at that. Worst of all, I was targeted by a giant python hundreds of meters long. Luckily, I have an evolution system. As long as I keep killing monsters, I can strengthen myself indefinitely. During this time, I also met two human girls. From them, I learned that incredible evolutions were happening all over the world. There were giant gorillas and poisonous spiders hundreds of meters tall. The most mysterious of all were the deep-sea monsters in the Pacific. Humans also began monitoring the entire globe. They focused their investigations on regions where the spiritual power value exceeded 5,000. But just then, an alarm suddenly went off on the screen. The man watching this looked completely incredulous, because the screen was now showing a region with a spiritual power value over 18,000. And the cause of this fluctuation was that battle axe giant python after its evolution. Meanwhile, on the other side, completely unaware, I was still frantically killing monsters. With countless roots striking out, those swarms of bees instantly became my evolution points. As expected, with the help of the peregrine falcons, killing monsters became much easier. And nourished by my life essence, they all advanced to rank 7. Now, it's time to strengthen my roots again. Seeing that it requires 100 evolution points, it still hurts a bit to think about the cost. After I pressed the confirm upgrade button, that familiar pain hit me the very next second. But then, my roots began to undergo a massive change. The original dark red transformed into a deep black. Even the length increased to several thousand meters. With just a casual stretch, countless monsters were instantly entangled by my roots. That powerful destructive force tore through the forest. In just a short moment, The roots were covered in monster corpses. Evolution points increased by 210. Hearing that, I couldn't help but think, this is awesome. Now, my roots have formed a protective circle around me. If any danger approaches, I can detect it instantly. But just then, the red fox suddenly stumbled and collapsed in front of me. It was covered in wounds, with not a single part of its body left intact. Seeing this, I hurriedly channeled life essence into its body. Just as I was wondering who could have hurt the red fox so badly, a loud boom suddenly echoed from the distance. That 1,000-meter-long battle-axe giant python suddenly appeared above the canyon. It had a human in its mouth, and it was Shaoqing, whom I hadn't seen in a long time. Just as the battle-axe snake tossed its head and looked ready to swallow Shaoqing whole, I hurriedly lashed out with my newly evolved black vine root. In an instant, my root rushed right in front of the battle-axe snake. With a loud bang, I caught the battle-axe snake completely off guard. I took the opportunity to rescue Shaoqing. Looking at the hole in its chest, the battle-axe snake broke out in a cold sweat. It never expected that I'd become this strong. It immediately turned around and fled in the opposite direction. But I didn't have time to deal with it, because Shaoqing had no signs of life. To save her, I hurriedly poured all my life essence into her body. But as time passed, Shaoqing still didn't react at all. Meanwhile, on the other side, Xiaoling was sent to the hospital by the villagers. But the doctor told them that the snake venom in Xiaoling's body was too strong, and she likely wouldn't wake up. I was furious when I heard the news. I immediately ordered my fierce beasts to intercept the battle-axe snake. Although they were no match for the snake, they still charged at it resolutely. After just a few rounds, the battle-axe snake was beaten back. I took the chance to lash out my root and entangle it. With a powerful pull, I dragged the battle-axe snake right in front of me. The battle-axe snake was now breaking out in a cold sweat. It never expected to be beaten so badly by a tree. And this time, I didn't plan on giving it any chance to fight back. With a violent strike from the roots, I instantly pierced through the battle-axe snake's body. Then, I transformed the roots into the shape of a fist and smashed it to pieces. By now, the battle-axe snake was well and truly dead. But even so, I still wasn't satisfied, so I used the roots to lash its corpse over and over again. However, no matter how much I vented my anger, Shaoqing and Xiaoling could never be brought back. That evening, I gathered all the animals together and bestowed the life essence upon them. In a short while, they all began to evolve. The mutated bison upgraded to entry level 3. The wild wolf also evolved into an entry level 5 mutated wind wolf. I didn't expect them to gain elemental attributes. It seems my life essence is simply the most coveted treat in the animal kingdom. However, a few animals didn't change much in appearance even after absorbing the life essence. Just then, those animals actually began to bow down and pledge their loyalty to me. Even the rebellious honey badger bowed his head to me. I was deeply moved by this sight. With their help, I believe I'll be able to build a vast forest empire in the future. But what I didn't know was that on a nearby hillside, 2 humans were secretly plotting something. In the deep sea, a mutant electric eel thousands of meters long appeared. To eliminate it, the Federation actually launched 3 nuclear bombs at it. Although they successfully drove it back into the ocean, it didn't cause much damage. Meanwhile, a certain island nation had already been reduced to ruins. The survivors were still hoping for aid from the Federation, but just then, a massive mutant coral crab suddenly appeared. In just a matter of moments, the island nation's final line of defense was ruthlessly destroyed. As it turns out, this is an era of spiritual recovery. Some animals, after evolving, turned into all sorts of terrifying monsters. And I am one of them. Through systematic evolution, I have now become a rank 1 transcendent mutant willow tree. To better survive in this world, I recruited some beasts to be my underlings. The peregrine falcon is responsible for scouting from the air, and the wind wolves patrol the ground. As for the other small animals, they're in charge of cleaning up the battlefield. Of course, there's one particularly lazy guy, like this honey badger. Just as I was about to teach it a lesson, a dazzling sphere of light suddenly appeared nearby. And inside the sphere was the figure of a girl. Just then, that sphere of light suddenly shot toward me. It wasn't until it got close that I realized the girl was actually Shaoqing. Then, the sphere of light merged into my trunk. I was completely baffled by this. I had no idea I actually possessed the ability to nurture souls. Just then, the system suddenly popped up, Shaoqing's status window. He's Shaoqing, human race. Mutated soul, immune to all physical attacks. I was absolutely shocked. I couldn't believe Shaoqing's soul had actually been preserved. Shaoqing suddenly spoke and asked, "Who am I? Where's this?" Hearing this, I quickly told her. Your name is He Shaoqing, and you are the most important person to me. From now on, I will definitely protect you. I'll never let you disappear again." Suddenly, a dazzling light radiated from around Shaoqing. It must be because her soul wasn't stable yet. So I quickly dripped my life essence onto her soul. In just an instant, Shaoqing's body grew a bit larger. Then, through the sharing of her mental power, I saw another scene. I saw that Xiao Ling was lying unconscious in bed due to severe injuries. Meanwhile, Shaoqing, in her soul form, told me. She seemed to be able to control Xiao Ling's body, just as I wanted to see if Shaoqing could merge into the body. Suddenly, the scene returned to the present. It turned out Shaoqing's mental energy had been exhausted. After this experiment, I suddenly had a bold idea. Meanwhile, on the other side, two humans actually appeared above the canyon. In this era of spiritual recovery, a group of transcendents had awakened among humans. One of the members of the scouting team was a transcendent. But now, the entire canyon was shrouded in my mist. They got lost as soon as they entered the forest. Just then, the transcendent suddenly sensed something. With a few leaps, he vanished from everyone's sight. On the other side, Shaoqing suddenly felt a wave of discomfort again. It turned out her sister, Xiao Ling, was undergoing a soul fusion with her. Seeing this, I was completely incredulous. Shaoqing's body had been pierced by the battle axe snake. I didn't expect her to unexpectedly merge into Xiao Ling's body. Meanwhile, inside the village, the transcendent was also shocked looking at Xiao Ling on the bed, because he sensed a faint spiritual power within the girl, and it was the extremely rare fire attribute talent. He quickly took out a bottle of spiritual energy potion from his pocket. Just as he poured the potion into Xiao Ling's mouth, Shaoqing, far away in the forest, instantly felt a massive surge of spiritual power. As a red pillar of light shot up into the sky, Xiao Ling miraculously sat up in bed the next second. While Shaoqing felt Xiao Ling's body, she reported back to me in the forest. With Xiao Ling's body, it would be much easier to gather information about humans from now on. During the village dinner that night, Xiao Ling learned from that transcendent person that their mission this time was to investigate. It turns out that in order to better monitor mutated beasts, humans launched satellites to conduct global spiritual power detection. Whenever abnormal spiritual power fluctuations were detected, an investigation team would be immediately dispatched for a field survey. Hearing this, I couldn't help but think that humans aren't aware of my existence yet. But if they ever do find me, the only option will be to fight. The next day, just as the sun rose, the investigation team prepared to enter the mountains. But as soon as they entered the forest, they lost their way in my mist. I thought they would leave after failing to find their target, but I didn't expect them to be so stubborn. Then don't blame me for being ruthless. As the team ventured deeper, the surroundings became increasingly eerie. Just then, a wolf's howl suddenly rang out, instantly putting them on high alert. Seeing this, the general hurriedly told everyone to ready their weapons. But before he could finish, a wind wolf bit him right in the face. The transcendent who saw this was shocked and immediately shouted, "Oh no, this is a mutant wind wolf." He then ordered all team members to provide suppressive fire. But the bullets couldn't even penetrate the wind wolf's defenses. At that moment, the transcendent Gao Yuan leaped into the air and delivered a powerful kick to the wind wolf's head. But the wind wolf was no pushover, swiping back and striking Gao Yuan. Meanwhile, on the other side, Flathead suddenly attacked, sending them flying with a simple charge. Then, a team member fired an armor-piercing shell at Flathead. However, after a loud explosion, their faces were filled with terror. It turned out that 3 more mutant wind wolves had appeared on the field. A single mid-tier beast is enough to threaten a city, and these mutant wind wolves were at least mid-tier or higher. Realizing this, Gao Yuan hurriedly ordered a retreat, as these beasts were simply beyond their league. Watching them leave, I think humans probably won't be coming back anytime soon. Then I asked Shaoqing how things were going on her end. She said she had been taken onto a vehicle by the humans. I heard they were taking Xiao Ling to some kind of supernatural academy. Hearing this, I couldn't help but think, this is great. This is a perfect chance to infiltrate the humans. But just then, Xiao Ling's head suddenly tilted, and she fell asleep. It turns out that because Shaoqing had been controlling Xiao Ling for so long, her mental strength had reached its limit. I immediately gave her some more life essence, hoping to quickly boost her mental strength. Just then, Wind Wolf and the others returned from outside. But Flattop Brother seemed to be seriously injured. It turns out he had been hit by 2 armor-piercing rounds from the humans. If it weren't for his strong willpower, he probably would have kicked the bucket long ago. Seeing Flattop Brother so badly injured, I quickly extended a root and created an artificial lake in the open space ahead. Then, I dripped a single drop of life essence into the lake. In an instant, That majestic power of life illuminated the entire valley. Seeing this, I couldn't help but marvel. I didn't expect that even diluted life essence could still create such a sight. The small animals nearby were even more wide-eyed with excitement. Then, I placed the severely injured flat-top brother inside. Although diluted life essence can't compare to the spirit river, it still has healing and nourishing effects. You should know that my roots have now spread thousands of meters underground. And I also found an underground river filled with spiritual energy down there. Something containing spiritual energy like this must be a huge benefit to the animals. And who knows, maybe humans are searching everywhere for this kind of natural treasure too. Meanwhile, in front of a certain science building, Xiaoling arrived here, led by Gao Yuan. He told Xiaoling that this was the Humans Transcendence Academy. Every student in the school is a transcendent who has awakened spiritual energy. Before long, Gao Yuan arrived at the principal's office. After Gao Yuan explained the details of the investigation to the principal temporarily designated that mountain as a yellow warning zone. It turns out that since the spiritual recovery, humans have divided different regions into various levels. For example, green zones are places where humans can live safely. Areas with some danger mean there is a certain level of risk and a need for vigilance. As for red zones, those are places that must be monitored at all times. And if necessary, force must be used to suppress them. Finally, there are the forbidden zones. Those are places where one must absolutely never set foot. According to current monitoring reports, most of the world's regions have become yellow warning zones. The scene returns to the forest. Since the human squad retreated last time, I've been enjoying a pretty leisurely life. Every day, wind wolves bring me evolution points. I didn't even need to go out hunting anymore. Looking at the enhancement prompt from the system, I didn't hesitate to upgrade my willow branches to the second stage. This upgrade not only made the branches tougher, but also added a paralysis attribute. Looking at the honey badger causing trouble in front of me, I immediately lashed out with a whip. In an instant, the honey badger collapsed, paralyzed and unable to move. But after just 1 second, the honey badger was full of energy again. Holy crap, you've got to be kidding me. What's the point of a 1-second paralysis? But just then, Xiaoqing, who was beside me, suddenly burst out laughing. She told me that animals like honey badgers are born with a natural resistance to toxins. So this bit of poison was nothing to it. Then, Xiaoqing added, the humans are arranging for me to enter the Transcendent Academy, and I'll be having a spiritual power test in a couple of days. Hearing this, I immediately bestowed another drop of life essence upon her. With my help, I'm sure Xiaoling will shine tomorrow. The next day, at the Spiritual Power Research Department of the Transcendent Academy, Xiaoling, led by Gao Yuan, arrived at a testing hall. Inside, it was already packed with students. One of them, a girl who looked quite arrogant, looking at Xiaoling, who was brought in by Gao Yuan. She couldn't help but complain. Where did this country girl come from? She reeks of mud. But just then, the principal suddenly stepped onto the stage. Hello, everyone. The world has undergone a strange mutation, and only by constantly evolving can we survive. And you all are the finest candidates of this era of evolution. Starting now, feel free to show off your talents. Hearing the principal's passionate speech, the students' spirits were instantly lifted. But during the subsequent spiritual power test, their performance failed to please the instructors. This was because most students' spiritual power tested at a low level. This really upset the examiners. But just then, that arrogant girl stepped forward. In an instant, the testing device suddenly emitted a burst of light. Seeing this, the examiner shouted in disbelief. Her spiritual power value is actually as high as 2,000. This display sparked a wave of envy among the crowd. However, the arrogant girl didn't enjoy the attention for long, as Xiaoling stepped onto the platform. Just as the examiner was marveling at finding a treasure today, a dazzling golden light suddenly erupted. This made even the principal exclaim in disbelief. Impossible, because Xiaoling's spiritual power was as high as 5,000. And the number was still slowly climbing. But just then, the testing platform suddenly exploded with a bang. Seeing this, Xiaoling hurriedly covered her mouth and said, "Sorry, it looks like I broke it." After the spiritual power test, the combat test began. At first, some were full of confidence, but it didn't take long before almost all the students were beaten flat on the ground. The examiner then mocked them. "Is this all you've got?" Hearing this, Xiaoling was enraged. A burst of fire elements erupted, and in an instant, she rushed right up to the examiner. However, the examiner easily dodged her. But Xiaoling only got faster. While the examiner was momentarily dazed, she slammed her palm right into his chin. Seeing this, the principal immediately ordered that Xiaoling be given priority training. But what they didn't know was that Xiao Ling was an undercover agent I planted among the humans. When the spirit Xiao Qing reported the details of the assessment to me, I beamed with joy. I didn't expect the plan to infiltrate the humans to be this easy. Meanwhile, the villagers at the foot of the mountain left the area under the government's arrangement. As autumn turned to winter, I had been here for over a year. I've now reached the peak of Transcendence Level 1. Once I strengthen the remaining roots, I'll be able to break through to Transcendence Level 2. But what if the spiritual energy fluctuations from leveling up attract the humans' attention? What would I do then? Just then, Xiao Qing suddenly shouted that something terrible had happened. It turns out the Transcendent Academy discovered a spirit stone vein in the northwest. However, just as they were preparing to mine it extensively, a Transcendent Rank 2 centipede suddenly emerged from the mine. Hearing this news, I immediately felt that things were going south. Because with these spirit stones, the humans' leveling speed will increase significantly. I originally thought that once I reached Transcendent Rank 3, I would be able to face the humans head-on. Now it seems I was too careless. The humans' evolution speed might be even faster than I imagined. Then Xiao Qing added that the area had clearly not detected any spiritual energy fluctuations before. But for some reason, a Transcendent Rank 2 silver centipede suddenly appeared. I reckon either that centipede has the ability to hide its presence, or the problem lies with the spirit stone vein itself. I then asked, did the humans not make any counterattack? Hearing this, Xiao Qing hurriedly explained that because it was their first time encountering a disaster-level beast, they were caught off guard. Once I had a good grasp of the situation, I told Xiao Qing to continue investigating the spirit stone vein. And in the days that followed, I also started killing monsters continuously to save up evolution points. Finally, after saving up 800 evolution points, I began strengthening my remaining 8 roots. Although the process was painful, I had to endure it. After all, no one knows if there are other threats in this forest. He was the honey badger, who refused to back down from anyone. But now, he lay dying in the snow, crippled. It turns out that just moments ago, the honey badger had caught a carp from the lake, and just as he was happily preparing to head back for a feast, a few squirrels suddenly appeared nearby, looking at him pitifully. Seeing this, the honey badger was momentarily speechless. Left with no choice, he shared the carp he had just caught with the squirrel family. After they had their fill, a baby squirrel even gave him a nut as a thank you gift. After waving goodbye to each other, the honey badger took out the nut, feeling quite pleased. But just then, a sudden loud noise erupted nearby, sending him flying. Then, a giant eye appeared before him. It turned out to be an African elephant tortoise, hundreds of meters tall. Compared to it, the honey badger was as small as an ant. At that moment, tears suddenly welled up in the honey badger's eyes. It was because the squirrel family from before had been wiped out by a single stomp from the tortoise. Seeing this, Pingtuj immediately lunged and bit at the turtle. But being only level 6, how could it possibly be a match for this bird turtle? A scream rang out, immediately catching the attention of the nearby wind wolves. But when they arrived, they found Pingtuj lying in the snow, barely clinging to life. The wind wolves quickly brought Pingtuj back to me. Seeing this, I hurriedly applied a drop of life essence to its body. Then, I placed Pingtuj in the nearby spirit pool to let it slowly recover. I then ordered the wind wolves to find the creature that injured Pingtuj. Anyone who could avoid my detection in the thick fog and seriously injure Pingtuj is definitely no weakling. I must nip such a thread in the bud. Just then, Xiao Qing suddenly appeared and said she wanted to come along. She also mentioned that the humans had discovered a major secret. Spirit stones can block spiritual energy fluctuations. Hearing this, it all clicked for me. No wonder that Transcendence Level 2 Centipede was able to evade the human's spiritual satellite detection. Now that I'm about to break through to Transcendence Level 2, it will definitely alert the humans. So, I must find a spirit stone vein as quickly as possible. That's when I remembered the underground spirit river beneath the roots. Since the river contains spiritual energy, then, the source of this river might just be where the spirit stone vein is located. With that thought, I immediately stopped the wind wolves and the others. If there is a spirit stone vein in this canyon, the opponent likely used it to evade my detection. And judging from Flathead's injuries, the opponent is at least Transcendence Rank 1 or higher. I then ordered the red foxes and the others to investigate the battle scene first. As for the white cranes and peregrine falcons, they were tasked with searching for any suspicious cave openings nearby. I told them that if they encountered anyone suspicious, they must not alert the enemy, but come back and report to me first. As soon as I finished speaking, the wind wolves and the others rushed outside. The white cranes and peregrine falcons also scattered to begin their search. As for Xiao Qing, with the help of my roots, she reached the underground spirit river. Searching upstream, Shaoqing soon discovered a spirit stone vein. But just then, a terrifying roar suddenly echoed. The sound made Shaoqing freeze in her tracks. Because not far from her, a massive creature had suddenly appeared. And in front of the giant beast, there was a purple-red flower. Shaoqing didn't expect to find a rank 2 transcendent African elephant tortoise in this mineral vein. It must be the culprit who injured Flathead Brother. And judging by its behavior, it seemed very protective of that red flower growing on the spirit stone. Thinking this, Shaoqing immediately used her telekinesis to snatch the flower. She didn't expect this move to instantly infuriate the tortoise. As it stomped its foot down hard, the surrounding rocks instantly shattered. Shaoqing took this opportunity to quickly tunnel out from underground. Then she flew straight toward her master. But then, that damn tortoise stomped the ground again. A second later, countless earthen walls instantly appeared in front of Shaoqing. Since Shaoqing had no physical body, she easily passed through the earthen walls. Unfortunately, the spirit grass couldn't pass through with her. Just when Shaoqing thought she would be returning empty-handed, a golden figure suddenly flashed past her. With a loud bang, the earthen wall was instantly smashed through. The elephant tortoise didn't even have time to react before being caught off guard and smashed by Flathead Brother. Shaoqing, who had just arrived at the scene, looked on in disbelief. She didn't expect Flathead Brother, who was only level 6, to dare challenge a rank 2 transcendent African elephant tortoise. With a loud roar, Flathead Brother charged rapidly toward the elephant tortoise. However, the elephant tortoise calmly stomped the ground, and instantly, countless earthen blades surged toward Flathead Brother. Luckily, Ping Tuj was agile and dodged them with a few effortless moves. Just as he was about to reach the elephant tortoise, Ping Tuj suddenly opened his sharp jaws and bit hard into the elephant tortoise's neck. The elephant tortoise didn't expect to be bitten by such a small creature. He then angrily kicked Ping Tuj. After several loud booms, Shaoqing, watching from the side, couldn't help but gasp. Ping Tuj, who had been sent flying, was now spitting up blood. Seeing this, Shaoqing hurriedly urged him. "You're no match for it. You'll die if you keep this up." But when Ping Tuj thought about the tragic sight of the squirrel family's death earlier that day, he let out another angry roar. He would absolutely not give up. He is the most fearless animal in the world. Even when facing an opponent several levels above him, Ping Tuj remains indifferent to life and death, ready to fight anyone. With a boom, Ping Tuj instantly slammed into the elephant tortoise's chin. But instead of hurting the elephant tortoise, he only left himself dazed and confused. At that moment, the elephant tortoise raised its hand and attacked Ping Tuj. Seeing this, Shaoqing hurriedly activated her mental power, sending countless boulders crashing toward the elephant tortoise. Ping Tuj then took this opportunity to leap up from the side. In an instant, countless afterimages appeared around the elephant turtle. Then, Flathead Brother seized the chance and lunged at the elephant turtle's forehead. He then began to unleash all of his lightning power. This sudden attack caused the elephant turtle to pass out instantly. Seeing this, Shaoqing thought Flathead Brother had won. But a second later, the elephant turtle suddenly opened its eyes again. Immediately after, it slammed right into Flathead Brother with a loud crash. Then with a loud crash, it slammed directly into Ping Tuj, and that terrifying force sent Ping Tuj flying hundreds of meters away. However, the elephant turtle was still not appeased. It immediately rushed forward and trampled on Ping Tuj. The successive heavy blows caused Ping Tuj to spit out a mouthful of blood. Yet after landing, it struggled to stand back up. Even though it knew it was no match for the elephant turtle. Even though it knew it was already at the end of its rope. At this moment, Ping Tuj still rushed forward again without any fear. Just as it was about to die. Under this strike from the elephant turtle, a tree root suddenly burst out from beside Ping Tuj and fiercely slammed into the elephant turtle. Despite looking like a simple strike, it unexpectedly blew the elephant turtle away dozens of meters. That is right, at this critical moment, my tree root arrived in time to save Ping Tuj. Looking at the elephant turtle before me, I figured it must have relied on the spiritual vein to stay hidden until now. Then I looked at the somewhat embarrassed Ping Tuj next to me and said, "You are already amazing for fighting it until now. Seeing you hurt so badly, yet still willing to risk your life. You must have gone through some painful things, but you can rest now." As my voice fell, that elephant tortoise suddenly charged straight at me. Just then, Shaoqing rushed forward and warned, "Master, be careful. This tortoise's defense is exceptionally high." Hearing this, I immediately unleashed the roots I had just evolved. Then came a loud boom. The tortoise's tusks were instantly shattered by my roots. Shaoqing was stunned by the sight. The flat-headed brother beside her also looked on in disbelief. However, The tortoise was furious after taking that hit. It immediately began to unleash its earth element talent on me. But those seemingly razor-sharp rocks were dealt with by a single, casual sweep of mine. Then, taking advantage of the tortoise's momentary distraction, I swept it directly into the air. Once off the ground, the tortoise was nothing more than a lamb to the slaughter. As my countless roots slammed into its body, the tortoise was instantly finished. Ding! Earthrock Elephant Tortoise slain. Gained 8,000 evolution points. The flat-headed brother stepped forward to examine the elephant tortoise's corpse. His tense heart finally relaxed. Meanwhile, I was delighted to see a spirit stone vein spanning thousands of square meters. With the help of these spirit stones, I believe I'll be able to break through to Transcendence Level 2 before long. Then Xiaoqing came over with a red plant, explaining that this was what the tortoise had been trying to protect. Not bad at all. This is truly a huge harvest today. Then I started digging a tunnel underground and made the animals under my command move all the spirit stones from the vein over here. Now that I have the spirit stones and opened up quite a few caves, the next thing to do is to focus on peaceful cultivation. Just like that, spring passed and autumn came, and 3 months quickly went by. At this point, all my tree roots have been fully strengthened. And as for my main body, it seems to have undergone some changes as well. Not only has the body color changed, even my gaze has become a lot more fierce. The only thing that remained unchanged is my smooth bald head. Later, when I checked my attribute panel, I found that earth element manipulation had been added. This discovery pleasantly surprised me. Could it be a reward from the system for killing that turtle? Next, I started to try casting an earth element attack. In just an instant, tens of thousands of spikes appeared all around. Looking at such a terrifying strike, I finally understood why humans define Tier 2 transcendent creatures as disaster level. However, although the power of this move is good, the range is still a bit small. Now that I have saved up quite a lot of evolution points, it is also time to upgrade my innate talent. After all, as long as my regeneration ability is strong enough, I can still revive using the surviving tree roots. Then I immediately upgraded my innate talent. The next second, bursts of vitality began to radiate from my body. In just a brief moment, all kinds of plants grew all around me. At this moment, I tried cutting off my own tree roots. The next second, those severed roots began to grow rapidly. My roots were restored to their original state in no time. This regeneration speed is terrifying. As expected, my innate talent is ridiculously strong. However, what I did not know was that the human research lab at this moment had already completed the gene fusion experiment and intended to use it to create more transcendence. After being reborn, I turned into a tree, not only taking in a group of fierce beast underlings, but also adopting a human girl. Yet as an anomaly, I became targeted by humans, just because a casual strike from me could destroy a city. To prevent humans from discovering my existence, I could only hunker down in the forest and quietly develop. However, today my underling, the atavistic emperor crocodile, was breaking through its tier and got discovered by humans because the spiritual energy fluctuation was too large. It was not long before humans dispatched dozens of armed helicopters to the forest. When I learned about this news from Xiaoqing, I immediately whistled to summon my falcon underling over. After all, when it comes to dealing with helicopters, they are much better at it. I told them not to get bogged down in a fight, as long as they could cover the Deinosuchus and help it escape. Upon receiving my command, the peregrine falcons shot out like sharp arrows. Meanwhile, on the human side, their helicopters were launching a fierce attack on the Deinosuchus. Although ordinary bullets could not pierce its defense, such a dense barrage of firepower still caused it immense misery. It immediately used its tail to scoop up a giant rock from the ground, and then hurled it fiercely up into the air. In just an instant, the helicopters were caught completely off guard by these sudden stones. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the Deinosuchus hurriedly fled toward the depths of the forest. Watching it try to escape, the pilots in the helicopters immediately ordered muscle-freezing bullets to be fired around the beast. In a split second, the Deinosuchus felt as if its claws were frozen solid, and even its tail became completely immobile. Seeing that the Deinosuchus was frozen in place, the pilots in the air ordered all helicopters to fire armor-piercing rounds at it. Following a series of deafening explosions, even the Tier 1 transcendent Deinosuchus could not help coughing up a mouthful of blood. Just when the humans thought this annihilation operation was a complete victory, the radar suddenly displayed an unknown flying object rapidly approaching. It turned out that the peregrine falcons I sent to reinforce had finally arrived. In just a matter of a few breaths, All the helicopters were shot down in a single blow by the peregrine falcons. When the humans saw those peregrine falcons in the air, they could not help but gasp in cold air. You must know that normal peregrine falcons can reach 210 kilometers per hour, while the peregrine falcons before them were at least tier 9. Their flight speed was almost exceeding the speed of sound. Not long after, the Sarcosuchus dragged its heavily injured body back to my side. Yet at this moment, I suddenly lashed out and whipped it on the head, simply because I found a miniature tracker on its body. Seeing this scene, the Sarcosuchus broke out in a cold sweat, and with a gloomy face, I muttered that it looked like humans were already about to track them down here. At this moment, I noticed the large and small wounds all over the body of the Sarcosuchus. I never expected that human armor-piercing bullets could actually inflict damage on a Tier 1 transcendent creature. Then the Sarcosuchus suddenly opened its mouth and spat out a blue egg, proceeding to indicate that this was an accidental harvest from its recent advancement. Looking at this snake egg emitting ice attributes, I could not help wondering whether it would evolve into a creature like a flood dragon in the future. Meanwhile, on the human side, they were staring blankly at the fog on the screen. Just at this moment, they suddenly discovered that a tree in the lower left corner of the video seemed to move. Fortunately, their focus right now is entirely on that Deinosuchus. After a unanimous discussion among higher authorities, they designated the forest where I am located as an extremely dangerous red zone. They also issued an order to eliminate that Deinosuchus at all costs and nip the thread in the bud. This is a golden ant that has undergone tens of thousands of experiments to extract the secret of evolution from it. Humans actually spliced its genes with dozens of animals, although it was successfully evolved to an incredible height. Long-term experimentation caused cellular fragmentation, bringing its life to an end. Looking at the system prompt, I never expected a level 1 ant to awaken a talent. I immediately dropped a drop of life essence onto it. The next second, a pillar of green light shot straight into the sky. The ant that was on the verge of death just a moment ago has now turned into a terrifying mutant beast. The mutated golden ant possesses world-shaking power and is 100 times larger than an ordinary ant. I did not expect this little ant to have such strong potential. Right after that, I whipped it. In just an instant, the golden ant dodged several times in succession. Then a bang rang out. Unexpectedly, it was actually able to block the attack of my willow branch. At this moment, the golden ant suddenly dropped to one knee, knelt down, and pledged its loyalty to me. I was stunned to see this. I didn't expect it to be able to speak when it's only level 5. Meanwhile, the white tiger beside me is already level 9. Yet it still only knows how to act cute. Looking at the golden ant, I gave it the name Flash. Then I told it that from now on, you are the 5th of my 9 great demonic beasts. Meanwhile, on the human side, they had already set up a military camp at the foot of the mountain. After hearing this, I immediately sent the Emperor Crocodile to the center of the Misty Mountains to claim the territory as king. That's when Shaoqing asked, now that the humans know about the Emperor Crocodile's existence, what should we do? I told her that for now, the Emperor Crocodile will just have to bear it. If things get really bad, we'll go to war with the humans. Then what about the human army stationed at the foot of the mountain? How should we handle them? Hearing this, my gaze suddenly turned fierce. Don't worry, I know exactly what to do. Soon, as the human troops prepared to enter the mountains, a mist dragon suddenly appeared in the sky. Seeing this, the soldiers hurriedly attacked the mist. But strangely, the mist could actually reform itself. Just then, a soldier nearby, holding a flamethrower, said, "Let me handle this." But before he could even make a move, a golden beam of light shot right through his head. Then Shangguang slowly walked into the crowd and angrily said, "Next, you guys should thoroughly experience the fruits of your experiment." Before long, the human military camp had already been turned into a sea of fire. At this time, Shaoqing asked, "Are we really going to war with humans?" Hearing this, I pondered for a moment and said, "We cannot hide forever. Those not of our race must have a different heart." This is an atavistic emperor crocodile with a body length of over 2,000 meters. Ever since it was intercepted by humans last time, I sent it to the mountains in the center of the fog. Today my spirit value has reached 400,000, which is roughly at the upper level of the Transcend Tier 2. But if I want to continue improving, I must constantly kill high-level mutated beasts. Then I sent a remote voice transmission to the Emperor Crocodile and asked, "Tell me, in that large river to the east previously, did you find anything?" Hearing this, the Emperor Crocodile hurriedly said that the river is unpredictable, and even with its current Tier 1 Transcend strength, it would not dare stay too long. Moreover, the river water seems to have the power to suppress spiritual fluctuations. which means there is a high possibility that creatures above Transcend Tier 2 are hidden underwater. Hearing this, I could not help but be stunned. Sure enough, I still thought too simply. At this time the Emperor Crocodile added. Back then it only felt deep fear while staying on the river's surface. Perhaps in that large river, there might even be a terrifying existence of Transcend Tier 3. At this point the Emperor Crocodile asked again. Could it be that you, Divine Tree, plan to claim that large river for yourself? That is right, we cannot always cower inside a single forest. As long as we take that river, we will be able to make our way toward the ocean from there in the future. At these words, Emperor Crocodile broke out in a cold sweat. He then suggested that they could first send the second and fifth brother to scout the path. This would not only train their combat abilities, but also help you, Divine Tree, expand your territory. I did not expect Emperor Crocodile to be so meticulous in his thoughts. Right after that, I told him to be in charge of this operation. Emperor Crocodile then said, Divine Tree, you can rest assured. I will leave all the prey for you to personally execute. Very well, but you must not be careless in this operation. Remember to come over and take some life essence from me before setting out. I do not want anything to happen to you. Hearing this, Emperor Crocodile hurriedly expressed his gratitude. Then he conveyed my will to all of the mutated beasts. Meanwhile, regarding the underground palace, it was already close to completion. With the planning of the human Qing LV, the underground city was already taking proper shape. Not only did it open up a full 10 layers of space, it even introduced an underground spiritual river, together with the spiritual stone vein obtained previously. The underground city could now be said to be even more powerful. Just at this moment, Shaoqing suddenly told me that the egg was about to hatch. As a pillar of cyan light soared straight into the clouds. The next second, a white snake with tentacles broke out of its shell. Mutated white snake, Tier 1 of entry rank. It can control ice elements to freeze everything. I was overjoyed to see this little white snake. I wonder if it'll evolve into a snake girl or something in the future. Just as I was daydreaming, the battle on the other side of the mountain had already begun. Their goal this time was simple. They wanted to figure out the true strength of this area. At that moment, Emperor Crocodile stepped forward to remind them. All prey must be captured alive and brought back for Lord Divine Tree to kill. Also, do not linger in battle if you encounter a powerful enemy. Just as Emperor Crocodile finished speaking, all the demon beasts roared and charged into the mountains. Then, Flash jumped onto Lauer's back and asked, I want to give it a try too. Hearing this, Lauer hurriedly warned, whatever you do, do not provoke high-level fierce beasts. However, before it could even finish, Flash had already shot out like an arrow. The scene shifts back to the humans. After the previous battle, the only soldier who escaped was in a state of mental collapse. No matter how the researchers questioned him, he only ever said one thing. That mist is so terrifying. Seeing this, the commander ordered the 3 armies to assemble. They were determined to flatten that eerie misty mountain. This is a chimpanzee with an IQ of 250, and after being nourished by my life essence, it transformed into a terrifying mutant beast. It turns out that just a moment ago, in order to reach Transcendence Level 3 as quickly as possible, I sent my underlings to conquer the neighboring mountains. As they kept bringing me prey, my evolution points quickly rose to 18,000. As for the monster corpses, I gave all of them to the wind wolves. Meanwhile, in a certain mountain range, a large gorilla was staring angrily ahead. It turned out that Shaoqing had barged into its territory. With a roar from the gorilla, it plunged its hands into a crevice in the rock and lifted a boulder weighing hundreds of tons. Seeing this, Shaoqing could not help praising it. This guy really is quite strong. Then the gorilla suddenly threw its hands forward, and the boulder fiercely hurled towards her. As several flashes of light lit up, the boulder was sliced into countless pieces in midair by Shaoqing. Shaoqing said expressionlessly, Stop struggling and honestly come back with me. At this moment, I had just finished dealing with the animal carcasses. Then the gorilla was dropped right in front of me by Shaoqing with a thump. Master, I have brought back the gorilla you wanted. This is a primate. Are you sure you want to cultivate them, Master? Looking at the huge crater smashed into the ground, I was left speechless, but still patiently explained to Shaoqing. As creatures most similar to humans, if we evolve them to a certain degree, we might get unexpected results. Just at this moment, the black gorilla suddenly opened its eyes and froze for a second upon seeing me, before roaring and charging straight at me. However, before it could strike, it was taken down by my nerve-paralyzing toxin. Looking at the giant gorilla lying on the ground in agony, I gave it 2 choices. Either swear allegiance to me, or die right here. Hearing this, the gorilla hurriedly expressed its willingness to submit. This reaction caught me completely off guard. I did not expect primate creatures to be this smart. Looking at the silly-looking gorilla, I casually gave it the name Kong, hoping that it could truly become a fierce being like King Kong in the future. Then I bestowed upon it a drop of enhanced life essence. In just an instant, Kong suddenly burst out with a terrifying pressure. Seeing this, I could not help but blurt out a swear word, simply because at this moment, Kong had already evolved into a 100-meter-tall behemoth. Not bad, but if it is to be one of the top 9 demon beasts, it is still missing something. I immediately ordered it to try contacting its own tribe now. As my voice fell, Kong suddenly let out a roar to the sky. In just a short moment, that roaring sound reached the ears of the other gorillas. After receiving their king's orders, the gorillas began to move. Seeing this, I couldn't help but feel a surge of secret joy. My decision to tame the gorillas was definitely a great move. Meanwhile, on the other side, Shangguang was running into some significant trouble. It turns out it had encountered a mantis of about the same size. This was a giant mantis over 2.5 meters long. It didn't fall behind even when facing level 6 Shangguang. Keep in mind, Shangguang didn't even care about level 8 mutant beasts. But this mantis was proving difficult to handle. As a green figure flashed by, the mantis was instantly in front of Shangguang. Following a series of collisions, even the surrounding rocks were shattered into pieces. Then, Shangguang suddenly spoke, "You're strong, come back with me." After saying that, it quickly slashed at the mantis's chest, leaving a significant wound. Then, the cyan mantis fell straight down onto the ground. It turns out Shangguang had coated its blade with my god-level paralysis toxin. Just then, second brother charged over. Once he saw that Shangguang was fine, he hurriedly skidded to a stop. Then, second brother asked curiously, "This little guy actually managed to hurt you?" Shangguang smiled awkwardly and explained that although this mantis is not much in terms of strength, its speed is shockingly fast. Urge looked up upon hearing this and said, "It is getting dawn, so let us call it a day for the hunt." Soon, the expedition team began to slowly head back in the direction of Wushan. Suddenly, a flash of light lit up in the distant forest. It turned out that the ancestral Deinosuchus had been guarding them nearby all along. At this moment, Shangguang curiously asked, "Has the fourth brother just been watching us like this?" Urge explained in response that the Deinosuchus is now at Tier 1 Extraordinary. If we encounter a powerful enemy, it will rush out to support us immediately. Shangguang fell into deep thought upon hearing this. But at this moment, he suddenly found that the white tiger beside him was gone. Urge looked back and awkwardly said that it probably carried the mantis from earlier to claim credit from the divine tree. On the other side, I was currently consuming the evolution points I had saved up recently. I did not expect it to take me a full day to reinforce less than half of the willow branches. As for the remaining 27, I think hunting for a few more days should allow me to fully reinforce them. Just then, the silly white tiger suddenly roared and pounced toward me, just as I was wondering why this guy was so excited. Just then, the tiger suddenly opened its mouth and spat out that green mantis. Seeing this, I couldn't help but frown. Suddenly, the green mantis slowly stood up. Ding! Green mantis. Level 7, wind attribute talent, and extremely skilled at camouflage. I was stunned for a moment when I saw the system prompt. I didn't expect this ordinary-looking mantis to actually be an assassin type. I immediately tossed it into the nearby spirit pool to let it recover. In an instant, a massive amount of spiritual energy poured into its body. After a short while, the green mantis opened its eyes. But a second later, it shot rapidly into the air. Seeing that it was trying to escape, I immediately whipped it with a tree root. With a thud, a fist-sized bump appeared on the mantis's head. Just then, Lao Air and the others finally returned. But Niuemo spoke up worriedly. "Hong, who hasn't been back for so long, I want to go look for her. It's already been half a month since we've heard from Hong Hu. But with her level 9 strength, she shouldn't be in any danger." However, before I could finish, Niuemo added, "What to do if she encountered a powerful enemy?" Niuemo's words made me start to worry as well. Then I told him that if he could break through to the first stage of transcendence, he could go look for her. Upon hearing this, Niuemo immediately said he wanted to go cultivate at the Spirit Stone Plaza. After thinking about it, I agreed. After all, this guy has been by my side absorbing spiritual energy. He has already reached the peak of the 9th grade. Now, with a spirit stone mind that matches his attribute, I'm getting more and more excited to see what kind of surprise he'll bring me after his breakthrough. I was reborn as a tree, yet I'm seen as a mortal enemy by humans. Just because a casual strike from me can easily destroy a city. To survive better, I tamed a group of ferocious beasts as my underlings. Not only did I successfully make the humans hesitant to attack, but with their help, I quickly finished strengthening all my willow branches. After 3 strengthenings, the branches didn't just become much harder. They can even split after spiritual power is infused. I now possess over 400,000 units of spiritual power. If I were to infuse all my spiritual power into the branches, what would happen? Thinking of this, I tried pouring out all my spiritual power. My willow branches began to grow wildly. Meanwhile, deep in the mountains, Ping Tu Ge and the others were shocked. Even the white tiger and wind wolf stared at the sky in a daze. This was all because my willow branches, infused with spiritual power, had transformed into thousands of auroras. Such a spectacular sight left Qian, a human, gasping in admiration. But Lung Feng, standing beside her, remarked that if those auroras hit the ground, this place would likely be leveled in an instant. Just then, Shanguang mockingly said that it was their honor to witness Lord Divine Tree's majestic power. Lung Feng was about to retort, but Qian stopped him. Then Qian asked Shanguang, "Do you really hate humans that much?" Hearing this, Shanguang gave a cold sneer. Just as he turned to leave, he suddenly looked back and stared coldly at them. "It is hatred, not dislike," he declared. With that, he vanished from their sight in a flash. Seeing this, Qian couldn't help but feel a chill down her spine. Meanwhile, on the other side, all the willow branches began to slowly shrink. In no time, my 50 willow branches returned to their original form. While the power of this move is indeed terrifying, the spiritual power consumption is just too extreme. Still, I can keep this move as my trump card. It might just help me turn the tide at a critical moment. Returning to the dungeon, the underground palace had already taken shape thanks to the hard work of the gorillas. Then I turned to Qinggang and said, "These primates have above-average intelligence. Once the underground palace is finished, train them into an army." However, before I could even finish speaking, the underground palace suddenly shook violently. It turned out that Nioma had finally broken through to the first tier of the extraordinary realm. With a loud bang, Nioma's cave instantly collapsed. Seeing this, I could not help but be startled, as Nioma's breakthrough this time seemed extraordinary. Watching Nioma's aura continue to climb, a flash of inspiration hit me, and I promptly took out the rock flower that had comprehended the power of the earth. This flower was grown by absorbing a massive amount of Earth's spiritual stones, so it must be beneficial to Nioma. Without hesitation, I fed the flower directly into Nioma's mouth. In just an instant, Nioma's aura surged several times over. Then another violent explosion rang out, and a golden beam of light shot straight into the clouds. Seeing this, I could not help but complain, "Why does every breakthrough have to make a mess of my cave?" At that moment, Nioma finally finished its breakthrough, looking not only a size larger, but also radiating a faint golden glow. Not bad, judging by its aura, it is no longer in the same league as Baihu and the others. Furthermore, I could even sense the air around it beginning to distort. Then I immediately asked the system to open Nyoma's stats panel. Gravity domain relies on its control over the Earth to alter the surrounding gravity. Seeing this scene, I couldn't help but gasp. I didn't expect Nyoma to actually awaken a gravity talent. Right at this moment, Ping Tuj came running over with Shangguang and asked, "Second brother, you got stronger again." However, Nyoma looked bewildered and said that it felt like it got stronger, but couldn't pinpoint where. Hearing this, I immediately said, "This is simple, just fight a match and you will know." This is a Tier 1 transcendent mutated Nyoma. To test its current strength, I had Shangguang and Mantis team up to fight it. At the same time, I promised Mantis that as long as it could beat Nyoma, I would let it go. Hearing this, Mantis and Shangguang rushed toward Nyoma at extreme speed. In just an instant, countless shifting figures appeared around Nyoma. Right at this moment, Shangguang and Mantis suddenly flew above Nyoma's head together. Just as they thought they had won this time, Nyoma suddenly activated its gravity talent. With two loud thuds, Shangguang and Mantis were smashed into the ground. Seeing this, I couldn't help but praise. It seems speed is completely useless against Nyoma. Pingtuj nearby immediately pulled back his right foot upon hearing this. At that moment, Nyomo stepped forward and asked, "Fifth brother, are you okay?" "I'm fine. It's just that I feel like my internal organs were crushed." Hearing this, I quickly transformed the life essence into raindrops and scattered them over them. I didn't expect Nyomo's gravity talent to be so powerful. Although Flash and the others looked fine on the outside, several of their internal organs had been crushed by the gravity. I then looked at Nyomo and said, "You've only just broken through to the first stage of transcendence, and you should have consolidated your power first. But I promised that once you broke through, I'd let you go find Nine Tails. So I won't waste any more words. Be careful on your journey, And remember not to linger in a fight if you encounter danger. Hearing this, Neomo hurriedly promised he would be careful. With that, he set off on his journey to find Nine Tails. Meanwhile, at the foot of the mountain, a large human army was stationed. One of the soldiers asked fearfully, "That crocodile isn't going to suddenly charge out, is it?" "Don't worry, where we're stationed is 20 kilometers away from that misty mountain. And the Transcendence troops have already arrived. Once all the artillery is in place, we can flatten this mountain." The next day, inside the Human Transcendence Research Institute, Xiaoling was working hard on her daily training. She didn't expect that after entering. She did not expect her powers after awakening to be this strong. She could not only transform flames into various shapes, but the destructive power was surprisingly astonishing. Right at this moment, a junior student suddenly walked up and called out, "Senior Linger, the instructors have been waiting for a while." Hearing this, Xiaoling hurried away without even looking back. Looking at the battered training ground behind her, the junior student was stunned. This was built using super alloys. Yet it was ruined like this by the senior. Soon Xiaoling arrived at the reception hall. At this time, a young man with a lightning mark on his face was instantly captivated by her figure. Xiaoling was currently at the campus bell level in the academy, and her strength was not to be underestimated. He immediately stepped forward and said, "Hello, Junior. I think you should have heard of my name." Yet before he could even finish his sentence, Xiaoling looked puzzled and asked who he was, and fortunately the junior stepped in to explain. "His name is Li Hao, and he is a top talent of the Federation. He broke through to Tier 1 Transcendent half a month earlier than you. Rumor has it that he awakened lightning powers. So his wealthy father specifically spent billions to buy spiritual herbs for him." Li Hao then awkwardly said, "I came here today to specially invite you to join the 2nd Military District. But before that, I need to test whether you have what it takes." With that, he began to release his lightning attribute. Seeing this, Xiaoling showed no weakness and conjured up a fire butterfly. Li Hao, upon seeing this, wore a look of utter disdain. He did not expect Xiaoling to turn a violent flame into such a flashy and impractical butterfly. Immediately, he roared and charged rapidly toward Xiaoling. The moment his fist touched the fire butterfly, countless violent flames instantly enveloped him. This sudden turn of events forced him to hastily retreat. How could this be, when it was clearly just an ordinary fire butterfly? Why did it unleash such immense power? An unwilling Li Hao hurriedly released all of his lightning power. "I am going to get serious now, so surrender and admit defeat if you do not want to die." However, these words did not scare Xiaoling. Instead, she released a large number of fire butterflies and replied, "Come on, let me see how long you can keep talking big." He was the youngest transcendent in human history, but now he was being beaten by a girl with no power to fight back. To salvage his pride, he did not hesitate to release all of his remaining lightning power. Yet facing such pressure, Xiaoling simply raised her hand. The next second, countless fire butterflies surged toward Li Hao like a tidal wave. Following a loud boom, Li Hao in the arena was charred beyond recognition. After gasping for breath a few times, he declared, "I'm sorry I lost." With that, he collapsed straight onto the ground. Seeing this, the researchers quickly cheered for Xiaoling. Meanwhile, Li Hao's companions looked on in disbelief. At the same time, inside the office of a high-ranking official, a blind man praised, "This girl, Xiaoling, is a rare genius." Hearing this, the leader immediately ordered his subordinates to classify He Linger's files as top secret. Then, with a sigh, he said, "Humanity's current strength is still far from enough. We must find students with extraordinary talent as soon as possible. This girl's future potential will be limitless. We must nurture her well." Meanwhile, over at Bayou Canyon, I now possess 450,000 spiritual power, which is roughly the peak of Transcendence Level 2. Just as I was pushing hard to reach Transcendence Level 3, inside a certain spirit stone mine, a plant began to mutate. This allowed Qian, who possesses intuitive abilities, to instantly sense something. She then slowly followed her intuition into a cave. The eerie aura inside the cave grew stronger and stronger. Just as Qian was wondering whether she should go in and investigate, suddenly, countless red vines whipped out from the cave. A second later, Qian was entangled by these vines. Right at the moment she passed out, she managed to cry out, "Lord Divine Tree." And as I just woke up from seclusion, I heard her call for help. At first I thought I was just hearing things. But when I arrived at her room, I did not see her at all. I could not even find a trace of her anywhere in the forest. With no other choice, I had to send my mist outward in circles to sense her. Before long, I discovered the anomaly near that cave entrance. But when I rushed over, I found it was already too late. Mutated plant, level 8. capable of breeding a forest of vines and possessing parasitic abilities. I did not expect that back then. That unremarkable plant would actually mutate. Judging by this situation, it probably wanted to leave. This mine through parasitism. Just at this moment, the plant suddenly made a squeaking sound and immediately extended its vines to violently attack me. Yet these attacks of its did not even feel like a light scratch to me. ICG Jiu Shuga Feng Sao Gochir, and uprooted it with just a single move. At this moment, a ding came from the system prompt. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the seed of vitality, allowing spiritual power to quickly grow multiple trees on the ground. Looking at the corpse of that plant on the ground, I did not expect that killing mutated beasts of the same type would actually allow me to plunder their skills. At this time, I looked over at Qianqin again. At this point, she had already lost every trace of life. Just as I was thinking about burying her here, Qianqin's body suddenly started glowing with red light. And finally, up in the air, it formed a translucent orb. While I was wondering why Qianqin had turned into this, there was a sudden bang. An arm actually reached out from inside the orb. Qianqin miraculously came back to life just like that. Though this look instantly left me stunned. Could her situation be that she symbiotically bonded with that mutant plant? Right at this moment, Qianqin suddenly clutched her head and screamed. She could not believe she had turned out like this. Seeing this, I hurried forward to comfort her. Join us, you are no longer human now. A girl was parasitized by a mutant plant, but unexpectedly ended up devouring it instead. From then on, Qianqin not only was reborn, she even gained the ability to control vines. Because of this, I specially bestowed upon her the title of Thorn, ranking 6th among the 9 great demon beasts. Yet at this moment, Shangguang suddenly stepped out to voice her disagreement. She is just a human. How can she possibly be compared to us? Hearing this, I immediately rebuked her. What, are you questioning my decision now? At these words, Shangguang broke out in a cold sweat. She then dropped to one knee and stated that she had overstepped. I know you have always harbored hatred for humans, but Qianqin is no longer the same as before. Take your time getting along with each other. Looking at the pitiful Qianqin beside him, Shangguang had no choice but to passively accept it. Seeing this scene, I could not help but sigh and say, people are not of one mind, and this team is hard to lead. After a few peaceful days, several uninvited guests suddenly broke into the forest today. In this era of total evolution, a batch of special professions were born among humans, and they are mercenaries who will take action as long as they are paid. As for their purpose of entering the mountain this time, it was to find the atavistic emperor crocodile. However, they did not find the crocodile, and instead bumped into Qianqin, who was picking fruit, while Qianqin was thinking about picking a little more, to take back for Baihu and the others to taste. Suddenly a burly, big man appeared behind her. I did not expect that in such a mountain forest, I could still encounter such a delicate mutant. This time we really hit the jackpot. Hearing these words, Qianqin was extremely flustered. However, before she could think further, against the tree next to her, and then he picked her up in his hand like a small chick. This is a mutant, and it will definitely fetch a good price when taken to the auction house later. At this time, the blonde man stepped forward and said, such mutants are really rare. Just then, a woman in their group stepped forward and angrily said, are you guys really that desperate? But when she saw Qianqin's beautiful face, she was instantly consumed by jealousy and walked up with a dagger, saying, those red eyes of yours should be worth a pretty penny. Before she even had a chance to strike, she was sent flying by Qianqin's vines. The woman looked at Qianqin, whose aura was still unstable, and immediately told her companions behind her, she probably hasn't mutated for long. Let us all attack together. With that, the group abruptly rushed toward Qianqin. Just when Qianqin thought she was doomed this time, a flash of golden light suddenly streaked across the air. The next second, one of the men was decapitated. Then, Shangguang stepped on the man's head and taunted, humans, you actually have the guts to wander in here. Hearing this, the rest of them panicked. They never expected this mutated beast to be able to speak. Seeing that things were going south, the old man nearby immediately tried to run. But in just a split second, his head rolled off as well. Seeing this scene, the woman was terrified. Then Shangguang suddenly appeared in front of her and said, too bad you ran into me. None of you are leaving here alive today. With that, it impaled the woman's chest with its sharp claws. Another companion still tried to struggle, but his bullets could not break through Shangguang's defense at all. Then came the sound of another piercing strike. That person was killed on the spot. I never expected this battle to be a one-sided massacre by Shangguang. Qianqin was stunned watching this scene. However, right at this moment, the blonde man was still not completely dead. By the time Shangguang noticed, it was already too late. That is because the blonde man was actually holding a grenade in his hand. Following a violent explosion sound, Shangguang was blown away on the spot. Although her life was temporarily saved, a large hand slammed her. Both of her legs were blown off as a result. Right at this moment, that woman was also still not dead. Just as Shangguang was about to die under that woman's blade. Suddenly, with a piercing sound, the woman was instead pierced through the head by vines. Turns out at this last moment, Qianxin stepped in just in time to save Shangguang. It is over. I was finally discovered by humans after all. They not only gathered an army of 500,000, but also brought large-scale destructive weapons. Even the genetically modified troops were dispatched. Turns out just a few days ago, the world held a joint meeting. The leader of the Huaxia Federation stated that, according to the conclusions of the Spiritual Power Research Institute, spiritual power in the deep sea region has been continuously rising over the past half-year. Moreover, the mutated beasts in the inland are also continuously evolving. They are not the same as the creatures in the ocean. We cannot use nuclear weapons to strike them. The researchers nearby also stated that the spiritual energy tide will return in 15 days. The evolution of inland beasts will be even more terrifying than those in the deep sea. Then, she played the video of Flash killing the mercenaries. When they heard Flash speak, they were completely shocked. The general beside her explained that the video was footage transmitted via the mercenaries' ocular implants. From that beast's words, it was revealed that there is actually a master behind them. Meanwhile, completely unaware, I was still marveling at the progress of human technology. It turns out Flash and the others found a device called a spiritual energy jammer on those mercenaries. No wonder my mist didn't sense a thing after those people entered the mountains. Just then, Emperor Crocodile sent a message saying that things were bad, as a large number of strange presences had suddenly appeared at the foot of the mountain. Suddenly, a huge number of attack helicopters appeared in the sky. Not only that, but thousands of the most advanced tanks and armored vehicles arrived as well. I didn't expect humans to act so quickly. Judging by this scale of deployment, I think it's more than just capturing Emperor Crocodile. Just then, Xiaoqing reported to me that the humans' goal this time was to seize this mountain. As expected, they're coming for me. I've always wanted to remain neutral if possible, but now their artillery is practically at my doorstep. Immediately, I sent a telepathic message. All mutant beasts, listen up. We are about to face a brutal battle, a fight for our very survival. I know none of you enjoy fighting, but if we lose this time, only endless darkness awaits us. So for this final battle, everyone must be prepared to die. For a better future, please give it your all. As soon as I finished speaking, the fierce beasts were instantly fired up. The scene shifts back to the humans. By now, they were all geared up and ready to go. Xiaoling sighed as she looked at the massive army, not expecting it to eventually come to this. Just then, one of the juniors asked, "We're just attacking a single mountain peak. Is there really a need for such a huge operation?" A senior student nearby explained, "Don't underestimate these mutant beasts. I once personally witnessed a level 4 mutant antelope slaughter an army unit of nearly 100 men. And in this mountain now, level 4 creatures are nothing more than food." Hearing this, the juniors immediately broke into a cold sweat. Meanwhile, Xiaoling was thinking to herself, with the current military strength of the humans, with the current human forces, I wonder if the master has any chance of winning. Meanwhile, at the command center, they are discussing the operational plan. The commander shouted sternly, "Our personnel must all carry spiritual energy shielding devices. That is the only way to avoid being detected by those exotic beasts." With that, he ordered all tanks to launch the first round of artillery fire. As the booming sounds rang out, countless shells instantly tore a massive hole in the mountain. Simultaneously, armed helicopters in the air began a saturation attack. Seeing this, a soldier couldn't help but ask, "Won't bombing like this alert the beasts?" A companion beside him explained that the shells weren't just to clear the way, but to herd the beasts toward a specific location. Just then, a burly man suddenly appeared beside them and said, "Stop muttering and focus up." The soldier immediately broke into a cold sweat. They hadn't expected General Li to actually participate in this operation. He is one of the Federation's 2 strongest warriors. It is said that he alone can rival the strength of an entire brigade. Meanwhile, under the artillery bombardment, by now, a 100-meter-long trench had been blasted into the mountain. At the regiment commander's order, all the soldiers began advancing into the mountains together. But just then, a giant root suddenly appeared in the sky and crashed down with a boom, catching them completely off guard. Then, a loud dragon's roar rang out. That's right, it was my roots and the mist beasts attacking them. The soldiers were terrified by the sight. The commander also hadn't expected the exotic beasts to launch an active attack. In just an instant, I threw the humans' entire battle plan into chaos. Come on, capturing this mountain won't be as easy as you imagine. Humans gathered an army of 500,000 just to take down a single peak. They didn't just deploy dozens of attack helicopters, they even brought devastating intercontinental missiles. It's not that they were overreacting, but because the forest is filled with mutated beasts. But just as their artillery tore through the first line of defense, their path was suddenly blocked by a 100-meter-high root. I never thought I would eventually end up opposing humanity. At my command, all the mutated beasts swarmed out instantly. Right then, the ancient Emperor Crocodile sent a telepathic message saying that some humans seemed to have entered the forest from another direction. Hearing this, I calmly replied that it didn't matter. I will have a trump card ready to deal with them when the time comes. However, the clueless soldiers kept pushing forward blindly. Just as they thought this mission was way too easy, a honey badger not far away suddenly let out a roar. Meanwhile, at the main command headquarters for this operation, unexpectedly, General Li, China's top fighter, had actually come here as well. The commander stated that our target this time is not just that crocodile, but to smoke out the mastermind behind this mountain. Our original plan was to slowly close and starting from foreign borders. But unexpectedly, all the mutant beasts suddenly ran out for some reason. From this, we can tell that the mastermind not only has super high intelligence, but is also at least at the transcendent first tier. We must take down this mountain within 24 hours. Meanwhile, the left flank combat unit unexpectedly ran into Qianqin. In just a single exchange, these soldiers were completely slaughtered. Then a soldier tried to sneak up and ambush Qianqin from behind. But the next second a bloody maw appeared right behind him. With a squelch, that guy was instantly done for. It turned out the white tiger had been guarding Qianqin the whole time. Yet right at this moment, a rocket-propelled grenade suddenly shot through the air. Then, a loud explosion echoed throughout the area. Two genetically modified soldiers stepped forward and mocked them. These exotic beasts are way too fragile. But as the thick smoke slowly cleared, the white tiger appeared before them again, completely unharmed. Seeing this, the lion gave a playful smile and laughed. Perfect, I was just looking for a place to let off some steam. This white tiger is mine. The rest are yours. Hearing this, the catgirl nearby gave a wicked smile and said, grab that woman first. Our goal is to find the master behind them. But the lion wasn't listening at all. Enraged, he charged forward to challenge the white tiger to a duel. Meanwhile, on the other side, the golden monkey and the others also began their fight. With a powerful back kick from the armored boar, 3 ordinary soldiers were sent flying instantly. As for the lightning-fast honey badger, he charged straight through the gunfire. Once he reached the soldiers, he launched a hip attack. In less than 3 minutes, the 3 of them took down an entire squad of soldiers. But just as they were celebrating, a man with a scorpion tail suddenly appeared. He launched a tail strike, which hit the golden monkey square in the stomach. This sudden turn of events left the honey badger and the others in shock. The golden monkey, who had been sent flying, struggled to stand back up. Then, the scorpion man laughed loudly. You've been poisoned. In less than a minute, you'll turn into a pool of blood. Hearing this, Ping Tuj immediately charged at the scorpion, just as it was about to end that man's life. Suddenly, a bearded man appeared by its side in a flash. He immediately followed up with a side kick, slamming Ping Tuj into the ground. At that moment, a woman carrying a hammer flew in from the air. In the nick of time, the armored wild boar appeared and blocked her attack. But to its surprise, this woman's strength was actually immense. Once the 3 of them landed, they realized that these people were all transcendents from the gene-modified unit. Although the golden monkey was blindsided by their first strike, Ping Tuj and the others couldn't let themselves be intimidated. Suddenly, the 3 opponents launched a fierce attack. But right then, Ping Tuj suddenly leaped above them. Seeing this, the bearded man grinned and said, look, this little guy is delivering himself right to us. However, in the next second, he stopped laughing, because Ping Tuj unleashed his lightning talent upon them. In just an instant, he shocked the 3 of them so badly they wouldn't recognize their own mothers. Meanwhile, the golden monkey and the armored wild boar also took the opportunity to launch a sneak attack from behind. With their teamwork, they quickly beat the 3 of them, leaving them lying on the ground and knocked out cold. Right at this moment, the golden monkey suddenly starts coughing violently. It turns out the scorpion poison has already invaded its internal organs. However, before they even have a chance to catch their breath, a large number of soldiers appear all around them. Then countless bullets rain down and fire at them. Although these bullets cannot deal fatal damage to them, they still cause them a great deal of misery. Ping Tu immediately begins, releasing its thunder and lightning talent. The armored wild boar nearby also fiercely charges forward toward them. Yet right at this moment, an esper suddenly appears behind the golden monkey. Now that it is suffering from severe poison, how could it possibly be a match for this esper? As that person unleashes a fierce strike, it looks like the golden monkey is about to lose its life on the spot. Suddenly, a flash of white light bursts out, and the golden monkey is completely unharmed. It turns out the armored wild boar blocked in front of it at the critical moment. Seeing this scene, the golden monkey instantly has tears welling up in its eyes. Ping Tu nearby also wears a look of sheer disbelief. Right at that moment, the person suddenly reaches out and crushes the iron-skinned wild boar's heart. That intense pain instantly forces it to cough up a mouthful of fresh blood. Finally, unable to hold on any longer, it collapses in front of the golden monkey. At this moment, the golden monkey feels a sorrow as if something inside it has been torn apart. In a split second, it recalls the fragments of when they first met. It was originally the majestic king of beasts. Yet now half of its tiger skin had been peeled off by humans. Even though it was already dead, its body still stood tall and unfallen. It turned out that just moments ago, after the armored wild boar sacrificed itself to save the golden monkey, the honey badger beside them also got distracted and was severely injured by an esper among the humans. Seeing more and more espers swarming up, the golden monkey was furious at this moment. It picked up its club, ready to go down with them. Right at that moment, the honey badger suddenly rushed forward and bit it, holding on, and then flashed a few times to escape with it. Now that the armored wild boar had fallen in battle, it did not want to lose the golden monkey as another brother. Besides, its own leg was also severely wounded. If they did not run now, both of them might end up buried here. Meanwhile, on the other side, the white tiger could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. At this moment, it and Qianxin were already locked in a bitter fight. They had not expected the human espers to be this powerful. Although their stamina had reached its limit, they never thought about taking a single step back. Just then, the lion roared angrily. They cannot hold on much longer. And that white tiger has been protecting that woman the whole time. We will use her as our breakthrough point next. Qianxin at this moment also understood. The white tiger was already badly injured by the artillery shell earlier, and now it is probably just pushing through on sheer willpower. But if it were not for its protection, I figure those people would have captured me long ago, just as they were at a complete stalemate. A pale and sickly-looking stranger suddenly walked into the arena. When the lion saw that person, however, a wave of panic washed over it. It did not expect that the vampire Gula would actually come as well. At this moment, Qianxin also noticed the abnormal situation on the opposite side. She was already about to reach her limit, and yet the enemy still had reinforcements. Moreover, this person clearly gave off an aura of extraordinary power. Their strength was at least at the Tier 1 transcendent level or above. Right at this moment, the vampire Gula spoke up. What are you all still standing around for? Attack together. As soon as his voice fell, all the transcendents on the human side charged fiercely toward the white tiger and the others. Yet the white tiger, which looked like it was on the verge of collapsing, remained utterly unstoppable. Even the white crane and the wind wolf nearby put up a desperate final struggle. Although Qianxin was not as strong as them, she was not scared at all. But just at this moment, the Catwoman suddenly launched a sneak attack from behind. As two flashbangs exploded, the entire area was instantly engulfed by a blinding white light. The Catwoman took advantage of the moment to extend her sharp claws, and with a tearing sound, they plunged straight into Qianxin's abdomen. But just as Catwoman was preparing to strike again, a gaping maw suddenly appeared behind her. Then, with a loud bang, Catwoman was swatted away by the white tiger. Seeing this, the lion immediately panicked. Luckily, the white tiger's strike didn't take her life. Just then, the white tiger suddenly spoke. Go, leave quickly. Hearing this, Qianxin was momentarily stunned. She didn't expect the white tiger to actually speak. The white tiger continued. I sense that more and more transcendants are arriving. Hurry back to the divine tree. Otherwise everyone will die here. Qianxin wanted to insist on staying, but before she could say a word, the white tiger suddenly roared again. Woman, you're only getting in my way here. Qianxin immediately fell silent. She knew the white tiger was only saying this to force her to leave, and that she wouldn't be of much use if she stayed. She leaped up and began to retreat. But the humans weren't about to let her escape so easily. Fortunately, the wind wolf appeared just in time, biting the two pursuers. However, others suddenly opened fire on Qianxin. Just as the bullets were about to hit her, the white crane suddenly flashed in front of her. Although he successfully blocked the bullets for Qianxin, Baiha himself was severely injured in the process. On the other side, Lang was being ganged up on by 3 transcendents and lost his life. As for Hu, in order to buy time, it single-handedly fought dozens of transcendents. Qianxin understood that now was not the time for grief. She had to report the situation to the divine tree as soon as possible. At that moment, 2 more transcendents chased after them. Fortunately, Hu desperately blocked their way. Yet being only level 7, how could it possibly match these transcendents? It vaguely remembered that the last time it was beaten this badly was when fighting the giant axe snake. In fact, back then, it did not have much interaction with those 2 girls. Yet it still participated in that battle. Although it lost miserably back then, after that major battle, it successfully joined the Divine Tree's camp. Even though its strength was extremely low at the time, everyone did not look down on it because of that. So this time, let me protect everyone. As long as I am still alive, none of you will get past. Just like that, Hu and Hu showed no fear, as they faced hundreds of transcendents. At this time, the vampire Gula suddenly shouted, "They are out of energy, get them." Watching the transcendents continuously rush towards it, Hu suddenly thought of what the divine tree had once told it. As the king of beasts, Hu, pursuing ultimate strength is a good thing. But in terms of combat skills, you're still lacking a bit. You must realize that strength and physical durability have their limits. But the strength of the heart is limitless. No matter what kind of opponent you face in the future, you must remember that you are the king of beasts. You must have the righteousness to shoulder all responsibilities. The scene returns to the present. At this moment, countless transcendents attacked White Tiger like a tide. But at this moment, White Tiger no longer felt any fear. For he is the king of beasts. And so it was. Who knows how much time passed? By the time Flash arrived from the east, White Tiger had already lost all signs of life. Although White Tiger died in battle, his body still stood tall, refusing to fall. The mantis behind Flash looked on in disbelief. It turned out that humans had skinned half of White Tiger's hide while he was still alive. Looking at White Tiger, who refused to close his eyes even in death, Flash fought back tears and said angrily, "Stupid tiger, was it worth it?" They were originally just carefree little animals living in this forest. Sometimes they'd laugh and watch the world go by. Other times, they'd frolic in the spirit pool. But now, the armored boar's heart was crushed by humans. And the golden snub-nosed monkey was dying from a potent poison. To survive, Honey Badger hid the golden snub-nosed monkey inside a dead tree. But before he could even catch his breath, human voices sounded nearby once again. Seeing the golden monkey still struggling to get up, Honey Badger made a decision. He decided to lure the humans away himself, because he couldn't bear to lose his brother. Fighting back his reluctance, Honey Badger ran toward the humans. Meanwhile, several transcendents were cursing, insisting that they must find that honey pot. But just as they were slowly approaching the dead tree, Honey Badger suddenly leaped out from behind them. In the process, he even managed to sneak attack and take down one transcendent. But a second later, he was hit by a powerful punch from another. Then, a woman with a giant hammer smashed him into the ground. But when they lifted the hammer, they discovered that Honey Badger had burrowed underground. Just as they thought the honey pot had escaped again, the ground beneath one of them suddenly surged. A moment later, Honey Badger burst from the earth and slammed into the man's chin. But before he could even catch his breath, the bearded man suddenly leaped over and demanded, "Tell me where that stinking monkey is." With that, he struck Honey Badger with a powerful palm strike. The force of the blow was so great that it split the surrounding boulders into pieces. Having taken the hit, Honey Badger was now dying and unable to move. But even then, the man had no intention of letting him go. The bearded man rained punches down on Flathead. Unable to fight back, Flathead could only let the punches land. Finally, with one powerful blow from the bearded man, Flathead was sent flying dozens of meters, only stopping when he hit a rock. As the dust slowly settled, Flathead was barely clinging to his last breath. Then, the woman beside them said, "Stop wasting time, there are other exotic beasts to kill." With that, they rushed forward and unleashed a barrage of attacks on Flathead. But just then, Flathead suddenly spat out 2 grenades. It turned out that while sneak attacking one of them earlier, he had secretly tucked 2 in his mouth. Seeing this, they immediately sensed something was wrong. But it was already too late for them to dodge. With a loud explosion, Flathead took them all down with him. In a daze, Flathead felt himself arrive in a peculiar space. Just then, Xiaoling suddenly appeared before him. The moment he saw her, all his grievances came flooding back. He then threw himself recklessly into Xiaoling's arms. Xiaoling comforted him, saying, "It's over, everything is over." Then, she led Flathead peacefully away from this world. The scene shifts, and the golden snub-nosed monkey has arrived here. However, when he saw the honey badger's body, tears suddenly welled up. Why? Why do humans treat us like this? Just then, the bearded man nearby actually wasn't dead yet. Seeing this, the golden snub-nosed monkey instantly swung his staff. He had completely lost his mind. Ignoring the potent poison in his own body, he forced his spiritual power to beat the bearded man relentlessly. He didn't stop until the staff broke and the man had stopped breathing. Only then did the golden snub-nosed monkey stop. Finally, he saw the armored wild boar still lying there motionless. He slowly walked up and touched the armored wild boar's head. Then he looked up at the deep blue sky. In a daze, he remembered those beautiful times. Perhaps this is the best final resting place for them. Meanwhile, on the outskirts of the canyon, human helicopters were firing fiercely at the ground. But when the dust cleared, they found the guerrillas were completely unharmed beneath the tree roots. The soldiers were in disbelief at this sight. Then they opened fire on them again. Meanwhile, many of the helicopters in the sky were taken down by the peregrine falcons. Meanwhile, I, still in the center, couldn't help but complain. How could missiles of this level possibly penetrate my tree roots? But just then, a faint sound suddenly came from beside me. I never expected a human to quietly approach my side. He is supposedly the strongest human on the surface. Yet now, he is being beaten with no chance to fight back by a mere tree. Even so, he still shows no signs of retreating. As it turns out, just moments ago while I was dealing with the tanks outside, a human suddenly managed to reach my side without making a sound. Then that person spoke up. "It looks like you must be the boss around here." Hearing this, I answered without any hesitation that it is true. General Lee was shocked at this moment. He never expected a tree to actually be able to speak, although he had prepared himself mentally beforehand. When truly facing this tree face to face, he still felt an invisible wave of pressure. He immediately drew the sword in his hand and sternly shouted, "Are the fog beasts outside your doing?" "That is right. Everything here was cultivated by me." "Human, you should not have barged into our territory." However, General Lee retorted instead, saying that we are the ones occupying human land. Hearing this, I knew this battle was unavoidable, so I shouted at him to make his move. As the words fell, the man fiercely slashed forward with his sword. Yet the very next second, his seemingly indestructible sword was smashed to pieces by my tree roots. General Lee was completely dumbfounded. He never expected a large tree to possess such terrifying strength. However, before he could think further, my tree roots immediately wrapped around him again, and with a forceful swing, fiercely batted him away hundreds of meters out. When the smoke slowly cleared, it turned out not to have caused him much damage. I then extended my roots against his throat and said, "Didn't you say you wanted to conquer this mountain? Why are you now kneeling before me?" "Actually, I had no intention of going to war with you humans. As long as you retreat your troops now, I guarantee I will never invade human territory again." However, General Lee didn't believe a single word this tree said. He then stood up and stated, "All of our participating personnel are equipped with spiritual energy jammers. Have you been unable to sense the condition of your subordinates this whole time? I can tell you now. They have all been killed by us. Whether it is that white tiger or that honey badger, they have all died in this mountain forest." Hearing these words, I instantly lost my composure. I knew casualties were inevitable in this war, but I never expected the losses to be this heavy. Furious, I shouted, "Humans, since when did this world become yours? Since when? Must this world be entirely up to you to decide? Starting today? As long as I exist, I will be at endless war with you humans. I will use your blood to pay tribute to all the lives you have killed." Meanwhile, on the other side, Qianxin had just run to the center of the woods, when a trace of white fur suddenly appeared behind her. Qianxin thought it was the white tiger and the others returning. But the next second, out came that cat girl. Draped over her was none other than half of the white tiger's skin. Seeing this scene, Qianxin instantly became furious and immediately whipped out countless vines to attack the cat girl. However, already severely injured, how could she possibly be the cat girl's match? Just as the cat girl was about to finish off Qianxin with her own hands, a cold flash suddenly swept past. With a loud bang, the cat girl was instantly knocked flying away. It turned out that at this critical moment, Qin Gang and Lungfeng had arrived in time. Upon seeing that they were actually two humans, the cat girl wore a look of utter disbelief. At this moment, Gula stepped forward and said, "You are no match for them. Leave the rest to me." With that, his body slowly began to emit bursts of blood-red mist. In less than a brief moment, Qinggang and the other two were easily subdued by him. Just as Gula was about to interrogate them about the mastermind behind the scenes, a flash appeared instantly, and a fierce slash landed on his body. However, Flash's scythe, which could cut through everything, failed to even break the opponent's clothes. Seeing this, Qianqin anxiously shouted to run, saying he was no match for it. At this moment, Flash was blinded by rage, single-mindedly wanting to avenge Baihu. Just then, a large group of soldiers behind also recognized this golden ant, but before they could fire their guns, a cyan figure suddenly flashed through the surrounding space, and in the next second, those soldiers were taken out on the spot, with a fierce roar from Shangguang. Meanwhile, Gula stepped back to put some distance between them. Interesting, they turn out to be two high-speed moving mutated beasts. Knowing she was no match for them, the Catwoman immediately thought about slipping away. In the next second, Flash rushed rapidly in front of her. Before it had time to strike, a dark figure suddenly appeared before its eyes, and it was instantly knocked flying by Gula. Gula then taunted, saying the speed was decent, but the strength was far too lacking. Hearing this, the mantis flew into a rage and aggressively rushed forward as well. Yet Gula easily inflicted heavy injuries on the mantis with just a casual bat shadow impact. On one side is the Tier 7 mantis, and on the other is the Tier 8 Flash. Can they possibly defeat Gula, who is at the peak of the transcendent first tier? Here it comes, Flash's second form has arrived. It turns out that just moments ago, in order to avenge Baihu, Shangguang recklessly attacked Gula, who had reached the peak of Tier 1 Transcendent. It charged at Gula with incredible speed in the next second. Yet this fierce and sudden strike was easily blocked by Gula. This left Shangguang somewhat startled. It did not expect Gula's strength to be this formidable. Then it swung its sides and launched a rapid counterattack. But the result was that it could not even touch the hem of Gula's clothing. Seeing that the attack failed to work, it immediately pushed off with its foot. In the next second, countless golden light shadows appeared all around Gula. Seeing this scene, the praying mantis wore an expression of disbelief. This guy's speed is actually faster than mine. Right at this moment, Shangguang finally finished charging its power. With a loud bang, it slashed directly onto Gula's body. Yet the sound that came next was the cracking of its own sides. Is that all the skill you have? Your full-force strike cannot even break my skin. With that, Gula waved its cloak and pierced straight through Shangguang's body. Seeing that Shangguang was on the verge of death, the praying mantis hurriedly dashed forward in a flash. However, Gula sneered with utter disdain. Your attacks cannot even compare to that ant's. Before its words even finished, Qinggang suddenly launched a sneak attack from behind. At the same time, Lung Feng also instantly. Lung Feng drew his long blade and leaped down from the air. Just as the tip of the blade was about to pierce Gula's eye, there was a sudden bang. Gula actually transformed into countless bats that scattered in all directions. Lung Feng didn't expect Gula to be able to use a bat clone technique. He was absolutely livid. Looking at the countless bats in the sky, they really didn't know where to start. But just then, Qianqin suddenly shouted from behind. Quick, attack the bat with the red glowing eyes. Hearing this, Gula was momentarily stunned. But before he could react, the mantis had already appeared beneath him. Seeing this, Gula knew he was in trouble. However, it was already too late for him to dodge. With a horizontal slash from the mantis's sharp scythe, Gula's true body suddenly spat out a spray of blood. Just as he was about to hit the ground, Shangguang suddenly charged. In a rage, it slammed its claw down on the bat's head. Then, a loud boom echoed. But just when everyone thought they had won, a burst of bloody aura suddenly erupted around Shangguang. Immediately after, countless shadow impacts exploded outward. At this critical moment, Qinggang pushed Lung Feng aside just in time. Once the surrounding mist slowly cleared, Gula appeared in the center of the field, completely unharmed. But Qinggang had lost his life after being hit by the shadow impact. As for the mantis, at this moment, tears immediately streamed down Shangguang's face. Before they could even recover their senses, Gula in the arena swung his cloak and charged forward again, just as Shangguang was about to die at Gula's hands. Suddenly, with a squelch, unexpectedly, Qianqin stepped in and blocked the way. Shangguang wore a look of utter disbelief. The human he once hated the most was now standing in front of it without a second thought. Little 5, this time. It is my turn to save you, Qianqin said with tearful eyes. After finishing these intermittent words, she suddenly coughed up a mouthful of fresh blood. From then on, the innocent and lovely girl Qianqin exited the story. At this moment, Gula spoke up. If the higher-ups knew that humans and mutated beasts could be this close, I suppose such wars would never happen. However, I will not report this up, because what I want is endless slaughter. Before he could even finish his words, Lung Feng beside him suddenly launched an attack on him. At the same time, he did not forget to remind Shangguang, "Leave with that mantis if you do not want to die." With that, he commanded the mutated rats to surround Gula. At this time, the mantis behind urged, "Let us go, we cannot beat him. Just let these humans kill each other." Hearing this, Shangguang did not answer. Instead, it fell into deep memories. Back then, in order to obtain the secret of evolution, it witnessed numerous compatriots being brutally killed. Were ants really born to be treated this way? Should fate not be held in one's own hands? Once upon a time, it was also just one of those countless ants. It was the divine tree that gave it a second life, and everyone that gave it a sense of warmth. Yet now, humans are trying to destroy all this beauty. I know I am no match for him, but they are unforgivable. At this moment, the mantis suddenly pounced on it and roared, "How many times do you want me to say it? You cannot win. You will only throw your life away for nothing." I know, of course I know. But everyone cannot die in vain. Now only I am left. And I must protect this place for everyone. Hearing this, the mantis fell into a moment of silence. Then it slowly let go of Shangguang and said, "If you want to win even if you die, then eat me. Let me become your power." This left Shangguang in utter disbelief. Then the mantis added, "I am dying anyway. My mother gave birth to me only after eating my father. My father's power was thus inherited inside my mother's body. I have always disagreed with this method, and could never imagine such an end for myself. That is why I fled the tribe alone. If you eat me right now, my power will become your power. My speed will also become your speed." However, Shangguang expresses that it cannot do this. It does not want the mantis to sacrifice itself for it. At that moment, the mantis suddenly coughs up a mouthful of blood and yells angrily, "Hurry up, I have no time left. It is painful for me even to speak now." Along the way here, the presence of our companions has been getting fewer and fewer. I can sense that everyone has died. Rather than dying at the hands of that human, I would rather let myself become a part of you. Shangguang, I have always considered you my best partner. You do not need to blame yourself. This is the fate I chose for myself. At this moment, Shangguang is already sobbing uncontrollably. Yet in the end, it forcefully suppresses its reluctance and opens its mouth. Meanwhile, on the other side, Lung Feng's body is pierced as he tries to protect the mutant mouse. Gula sneers with utter disdain. "Since you two are so close, then I will send you both off together." With that, he lunges fiercely toward the mutant mouse. But as a loud roar echoes out, this sudden turn of events leaves Gula momentarily stunned. It turns out that his sharp cloak has actually been blocked by Shangguang. Do you know how strong Shangguang is in its second form? With just a casual punch, leaving Tier 1 Transcendent Gula severely crippled. As it turned out, just moments ago, after Shangguang devoured the mantis, it instantly evolved into its second form. Seeing this, Gula could not help but think, how did this ant suddenly become so strong? Judging by its aura, though, it is only at level 9 of the entry tier. It is simply impossible for it to be my opponent. Then he sneered and said, "Your companion risked his life to protect you, and yet you still do not run away. You are truly foolish beyond compare." Before he could even finish his words, Shangguang had already teleported behind him. This speed instantly shocked Gula to his core. He hurriedly unleashed his cape shockwave, but when the thick smoke slowly dissipated, he discovered that the cape had not hit it at all. At this moment, Gula could not help but gasp. How did this guy's speed suddenly become so fast? Right at this moment, Shangguang brought over the bodies of the mutated rats. Then it placed them in front of Lung Feng and said, "I know these rats were your most cherished possessions. Now you can rest in peace. As for your revenge, leave it to me from now on." Hearing these words, Gula was instantly displeased. He then mocked derisively, "Talking as if you could actually win. Just now was merely me being careless for a moment. Now, I'm going to get serious." But before he could even finish speaking, Shangguang's fist was already raining down on him. With a loud boom, Guladu was sent flying, completely stunned. Meanwhile, Shangguang's rage had already reached its peak. Seeing that Shangguang was only level 9, Guladu still couldn't believe the other could defeat him. He then unfastened the cloak, binding his body. "Since you want my life so badly, let's see if you actually have the strength for it." Just as he finished speaking, Shangguang suddenly appeared right in front of him. But in the next second, Shangguang was instead blasted by a punch from Guladu. At that moment, Guladu's arm transformed into a hurricane spike several meters long. With a casual slam, it instantly crashed down on Shangguang's head. Then, countless shadow impacts blasted toward Shangguang. At this moment, Guladu seemed to have gone mad. However, just when he thought victory was in his grasp, Shangguang's eerie eyes suddenly appeared before him. In the next second, Shangguang slammed a punch right into his face. Now Guladu was completely dumbfounded. He had never suffered such humiliation in his entire life. He then summoned all of his bats. Then he controlled a bat to attack Shangguang. However, this speed was clearly not enough to hit Shangguang. But after the bat landed, it suddenly erupted in a flash of fire. At that moment, Gula laughed maniacally. These are my unique bat bombs. You can keep dodging, but the friends behind you won't leave a single bone behind. Hearing this, Shangguang was instantly enraged. He declared that he would knock them away one by one. However, the sky was already filled with tens of thousands of bats. Gula mocked him with a look of disdain. I'd like to see how you're going to knock away all 13,000 of my bats at once. With that, he commanded all the bats to charge at Shangguang. Facing thousands upon thousands of bats, Shangguang didn't dare be careless. Whether it was for revenge or for the companions behind him, he couldn't afford to dodge. He immediately pushed his speed to the limit. In just an instant, Shangguang struck back every single bat. Seeing the bats being sent back, Gula was completely incredulous. But before he could process it, all the bats exploded around him. As a massive flash of fire thundered through the sky, Gula was instantly blasted out of the air. But right then, Shangguang suddenly appeared behind him in a flash. He then slammed him into the ground with a powerful punch. The immense force actually shattered the giant boulders into pieces. But Gula barely had time to catch his breath after landing. Right then, Shangguang stomped his foot down on Gula's head. Then it raised its fist and roared. This punch is for the white tiger. This punch is for Qianqin. And these are for all the living beings you've slaughtered. Gula was completely terrified by now. Why? Why is it so powerful when it's only level 9? Its speed is just too fast. I can't track its movements at all. Gula refused to accept that he would be defeated by a level 9 exotic beast. He immediately began burning through all of his energy. Then he charged violently toward Shangguang. But once again, he struck thin air. Right then, Shangguang launched a sneak attack from behind. But just as it landed a punch in Gula's stomach, it was suddenly grabbed by Gula. With its movements restricted, Shangguang suddenly felt something was wrong. Gula laughed maniacally and shouted, "Now you're finished. I'll show you. That Transcendence Stage 1 is a wall you can never overcome." He then slammed a powerful punch onto Shangguang's head. But a second later, he couldn't laugh anymore. Because Shangguang was completely unharmed by the blow. Shangguang then remembered the words the divine tree had once told it. Actually, not all humans are evil. I believe that after you spend more time with Qianqin, you will naturally change your perspective of her. But now, all its companions were dead. And all of them were killed by the human in front of him. At this moment, Shangguang carried all his anger and gathered all his strength into a single punch. That smashed right down onto Gula's forehead. That terrifying force directly crashed a massive crater into the ground. As the dust slowly cleared away, Gula was already dead beyond a doubt. White Tiger Qianqin, and all my companions, I have finally avenged you all. Yet right at this moment, cracks suddenly started spreading across Shangguang's body. As expected, I still could not handle this much power. Right from the start. This power never belonged to me. Then Shangguang slowly began to walk back. Finally, he came to sit down beside the bodies of his companions. It is really great to have known you all, even though we never really had much interaction. And I am sorry, Master. Shangguang may no longer be able to help you. I am so tired, let me rest for a little while. This was an atavistic emperor crocodile over 2,000 meters in size. In order to kill the highest commander of the humans, it actually did not hesitate to take several incredibly powerful missiles head-on. As it turned out, just moments ago, when the emperor crocodile saw the bodies of the 3 honey badgers, it immediately roared up at the sky and said, "Humans, I want you to pay the price for this." Meanwhile, in a certain mountain forest, Catwoman is retreating toward the human base. Just then, a slender figure blocks her path. Upon seeing who it is, Catwoman is in complete disbelief. It turns out to be He Shaoling. Catwoman did not expect her to arrive at the battlefield as well. Since they never got along, Catwoman immediately feels that things are going badly. She quickly comes up with a plan and steps forward, saying, "Now that most of the aberrant beasts have been wiped out, you should go check and see if any escaped." Hearing this, Shaoling does not fall for it at all. Seeing that Catwoman wants to slip away using this excuse, Shaoling hurriedly rushes forward and strikes her down with a palm strike. Catwoman is dumbfounded. "Are you crazy? Why are you hitting me instead of the beasts?" However, Shaoling does not give her any time to think, rushing up to smash another punch right into her face. Catwoman is instantly enraged. and immediately prepares to transform and fight her. Yet how could she possibly match Xiaoling, who was at the first tier of extraordinary? She sends her reeling and spitting foam. Then Xiaoling summons countless fire butterflies in an instant, causing Catwoman to burn in agonizing pain. Seeing that Xiaoling is attacking with increasing severity, she immediately begs for mercy, shouting, "Stop hitting me. I was wrong. Do not kill me." At this moment, Xiaoling uses spiritual energy to materialize a long sword. Then, she stabbed the cat girl's hand viciously. "I won't kill you." But they might not be so merciful. With just a single punch. As soon as she finished speaking, 2 wind wolves appeared beside her. Seeing this, the cat girl immediately burst into a fit of cursing. However, before she could even get a few words out, she was torn apart and eaten by the 2 wind wolves. Meanwhile, on the outskirts of the battlefield, the guerrillas were suffering heavy casualties from the artillery fire. So, I used tree roots to flip all those heavy firepower tanks. Then, coordinating with the mist beasts and peregrine falcons, I took down many of the armed helicopters in the sky. But just then, the human commander suddenly shouted, "Deploy all incendiary bombs." As soon as he finished speaking, several armed trucks behind him immediately began firing toward the center of the battlefield. A second later, countless incendiary bombs rained down on the mist beasts at incredible speed. In an instant, all my mist beasts were vaporized by the scorching flames. Even the peregrine falcons flying in the air were affected. My tree roots also began to sizzle and catch fire in the blaze. But in the next second, my tree roots began to grow back. The soldiers were shocked to see this. They didn't expect my tree roots to have the ability to self-repair. But then, the commander shouted again, "Keep bombing it. Repairing those roots requires spiritual power. Once its spiritual power is gone, it'll be nothing." And those roots simply couldn't reach the missile trucks. Thus, the armored vehicles behind continued to unleash a barrage on the battlefield. I watched as my roots slowly began to dwindle. Just then, the peregrines in the sky immediately dove toward the missile trucks in a suicide attack. But after flying only half the distance, they were suddenly blocked by several transcendents. It turned out that after flying for so long, the peregrines could no longer pick up speed. Yet despite this, one peregrine managed to break through the transcendence blockade. With a loud, piercing roar from Ada, the missile trucks in the rear were engulfed in flames the next second. Then, a series of explosions rang out. In an instant, all the missile trucks were completely destroyed. At the same time, the ground suddenly began to shake. It turned out the Emperor Crocodile had finally arrived from the rear to provide support. Facing such a behemoth, all the soldiers immediately opened fire on it. Although these bullets couldn't deal fatal damage to the Emperor Crocodile, they still caused it some discomfort. The Emperor Crocodile then opened its massive maw and launched a sonic attack at the soldiers. In the next second, all the transcendents and soldiers were blown back hundreds of meters. And the Emperor Crocodile took this opportunity, hurriedly rushed toward the human command center, rushing toward the human headquarters. But just then, the commander suddenly gave an order. "All Air Force, listen up. Deploy muscle-stiffening bombs on this Imperial Crocodile." As soon as he spoke, the attack helicopters in the air began firing at the Imperial Crocodile. In an instant, a series of explosions boomed around the Imperial Crocodile, looking at the human command center just within reach, especially the commander standing at the very front. "The Divine Tree, lend me a hand." Hearing the plea, I immediately commanded the roots to lash out at the helicopters in the air. The Imperial Crocodile took this opportunity to leap forward. Seeing this, the commander had a bad feeling, but it was already too late for him to dodge. However, just then, a missile suddenly shot toward the Imperial Crocodile's eye. Then came a world-shaking explosion. Just as the commander thought the missile had finished off the Imperial Crocodile, he was stunned by the scene before him. Right in front of him were the terrifying eyes of the Imperial Crocodile. Looking at the commander, the Imperial Crocodile thought that eliminating him would end the war. Then, it opened its massive maw and swallowed the commander whole. The commander also gave one last order before he died. "Fire at me." In an instant, the Emperor Crocodile and the commander were engulfed in endless flames. And so, all the comrades in the mountains perished. This was a spiritual energy missile, the culmination of human wisdom. Although its radiation isn't as extreme as a nuclear bomb, its explosive power is several times greater. And now, this spiritual energy missile is fully charged. At that moment, the chief asked, "What's the situation with General Li?" Hearing this, the assistant beside him hurriedly replied, "General Li hasn't been reachable since he entered the mountains." As it turns out, General Li was currently locked in a fierce battle. And his opponent was, naturally, me, at the peak of Transcendent second stage. Looking at this human who was still struggling to hold on, I tried to persuade him. You can't possibly beat me. But before I could finish, General Li grit his teeth and declared that he would not back down. Since you're so stubborn, I'll show you my true strength. Hearing this, General Li was suddenly shocked. He didn't expect that I was still hiding my power. Just then, with a roar from me, the ground around began to shake violently. The next second, my spiritual power soared to 490,000. Seeing this, General Li panicked. He knew he was definitely no match for me now. Then he took a pill from his pocket and popped it into his mouth. In an instant, General Li's strength jumped to the quasi-third stage. His spiritual power reached a terrifying level. I didn't expect him to have a way to instantly boost his power. I immediately unleashed Mountain Collapse and Earth Split and blasted it at him. But his movement technique was incredibly fast. With just a few leaps, he dodged my attack. He wanted to create distance and fight a long-range battle. I wasn't about to let him have his way. With that, he flew toward me at extreme speed. Just as he reached me, he suddenly swung his sword. In an instant, the earth defense I had condensed was shredded by his sword chi. Fortunately, at the critical moment, my vines blocked his longsword. Then, I condensed a fist of earth and slammed it right into his chin. The force was so powerful that it sent him flying 100 meters into the air. Seeing this, I immediately sent tree roots surging toward him. But just then, countless streaks of sword chi slashed through the air. A second later, my tree roots were chopped into pieces. Then he controlled all that sword chi and launched it at me. Seeing this, I hurriedly released countless willow leaf flying daggers. The moment the sword chi and flying daggers collided, I took the opportunity to sneak attack him from behind with my vines and wrap him up. Just when I thought the outcome of this battle was already decided, General Li suddenly erupted with a terrifying aura as his power surged. He actually didn't hesitate to burn his own lifespan, forcibly raising his level to Transcendence Rank 3. In an instant, a fierce wave of sword chi shot toward me. Then, a world-shaking roar echoed. But as the thick smoke slowly cleared, General Li was completely stunned. It turned out that his all-out attack had only caused me a minor injury. Refusing to give up, General Li condensed his sword chi and attacked me once more. But a second later, he was smashed by my vines. A spray of hot blood instantly erupted from his mouth. At that moment, he was utterly defeated. Even though this tree was only Transcendence Rank 2, he simply couldn't defeat it. Just as he was preparing to sacrifice his lifespan again, the receiver in his ear suddenly relayed a retreat order. General Li, please leave that peak as soon as possible. The spiritual energy missiles will launch in 3 minutes. Hearing this, General Li's tension immediately vanished. He then said to me, "It seems we don't need to fight anymore. I admit you're very strong. Extremely strong, but the ultimate winner will always be us. Because a missile, the crystallization of human wisdom, is about to be fired here. That missile has a spiritual power value of nearly 1 million. While its radiation isn't as extreme as a nuclear weapon, it's still enough to level this place." Having said that, he retreated at high speed. Hearing this, I suddenly panicked. I immediately summoned back all the tree roots I had outside. The moment the missile was about to land, I hurriedly commanded the roots to strike it. But in the next second, all the roots were turned to ash, and that spiritual missile plunged into my body with unstoppable force. With a deafening boom, the spiritual missile passed right through me and drilled toward the center of the earth. Once it had completely entered the core, it instantly exploded with me at the center. I don't want to die. I still have so many things to do. I haven't even had the chance to avenge my friends. I can't accept this. I absolutely cannot die like this. But as a world-shaking explosion rang out, I was ultimately engulfed in the flames. How terrifying is it when a giant tree gets angry? With just one casual move, tens of thousands of human transcendents were killed. It turns out that just now, the humans had fired a spiritual missile at me. In an instant, Bayou Canyon was enveloped by a massive pillar of light. General Li managed to retreat just in time before the explosion. Everyone hurried forward to report that the beasts in the deep mountains had mostly been cleared. Especially that crocodile. Nearly 10,000 combat personnel were lost to take it down. That included the commander. Now that the final boss in the canyon had been killed by the missile, the spiritual energy levels dropped from 300,000 to just a few thousand. But just as they were cleaning up the battlefield and preparing to retreat, an angry figure emerged from the woods. General Li and the others were bewildered when they saw who it was. Xiaoling looked absolutely heartbroken. General Li thought she was grieving for her fallen comrades, and just as he stepped forward to comfort her, Xiaoling suddenly unleashed a surge of powerful spiritual energy and screamed, Humans, may you all die a miserable death. Seeing this, the senior student tried to scold her. But in the next second, Xiaoling sent him flying with a single palm strike. This left everyone stunned on the spot. With hollow eyes, Xiaoling shouted, "The divine tree you killed was actually my master." General Li looked on in disbelief. Meanwhile, the officer behind him charged angrily at Xiaoling. But before he could even strike, he was suddenly wrapped up by a centipede. Now, Xiaoling no longer had to hide her true self. When everyone saw the centipede behind her, they couldn't help but gasp in shock. That's when General Li spoke up. No wonder that silver centipede suddenly died back then. It turns out you absorbed it. As the others prepared to charge forward and bring Xiaoling to justice, General Li suddenly stepped in front of them to stop them. "You're no match for her. Let me handle this." With those words, he rushed forward and slashed Xiaoling with his sword. "Stop being so stubborn and come back with me now. I promise to overlook your past mistakes." But before he could even finish speaking, Xiaoling cursed, shouting that she would make all humans pay with their lives. Left with no choice, General Li had to strike a lethal blow to eliminate the threat. However, right then, two wind wolves suddenly leaped out from the side. Meanwhile, on the other side, I was regretting why things had turned out this way. All the little animals had fallen in battle, and even I didn't survive. But just as I thought I was about to be reborn and go back to the past again, Xiaoqing's face suddenly appeared before me. Oh no, Xiaoling is in danger. The scene returns to the present. The two wind wolves were biting General Li firmly. But in the next second, General Li killed them both with a single sword strike. Seeing this, Xiaoling rushed over to check on them. At that moment, the wind wolf used its last breath to say, "Back then, we didn't have the power to protect you. This time, I hope you can live a good life." With that, the wind wolf closed its eyes for the last time. At that moment, some strange images suddenly flashed through Xiaoling's mind. It was from when she was still human and first met the wind wolves. Back then, they looked fierce and menacing. But in the days that followed, they became Xiaoling's best companions. But now, all the little animals are dead. They were all ruthlessly killed by humans. Xiaoling immediately stood up and shouted angrily, "What did they ever do wrong? Why do you have to be so relentless in wiping them out? They just wanted to live in peace. They hadn't even left this mountain. Does everything you can't control have to be erased?" Hearing this, General Li suddenly interrupted her. "They are nothing but beasts. Who can guarantee they wouldn't attack human cities? Even if there's only a slight possibility, I won't let that spark ignite. I'm telling you, we are not wrong. Even if I had to choose again, I would still choose to go to war." Having said that, he began to gather sword qi in his hand. Xiaoling, since you are so stubborn, then don't blame your master for being ruthless." Then General Li charged at Xiaoling with his sword qi. But just as Xiaoling was preparing to join her friends in death, a massive figure suddenly lunged out from behind her. Everyone who saw this had expressions of disbelief on their faces, especially General Li, who looked as if he had seen a ghost. That's right, I, who was destroyed by the spiritual power missiles, have appeared once again. Humans, none of you will leave here alive today. He was originally just an ordinary tree. But now, for the sake of his friends, he is willing to sacrifice his own life. Even if flames burn his entire body, he will do whatever it takes to make sure all the enemies stay here. It turns out that just after Feng Lang died in battle to save Xiaoling, the heartbroken Xiaoling was completely devastated. But just as General Li was preparing to step forward and end her life with his sword, a tree engulfed in flames suddenly appeared behind Xiaoling. I then swung my roots and charged at them. In just an instant, all the transcendence around me died beneath my roots. Seeing this, General Li had a look of utter disbelief. He then drew his long sword again and lunged at me with great speed. With a squelch, the sword qi instantly pierced through my broken body. But before General Li could even feel happy, in the next second, my roots sliced right through his arm. The intense pain caused him to spray blood uncontrollably. I took the opportunity to entangle him with my roots once again. Humans, you must pay the price for your actions. Don't think you can just leave so easily after destroying our home. With that, I endured the searing pain in my roots and leaped up. Then, I sprinted wildly in one direction. Seeing this, General Li was completely terrified, because I was heading straight for the location where the humans had gathered to evacuate. At the center of the battlefield, all of King Kong's subordinates had fallen. Even the atavistic imperial crocodile couldn't escape the human missile strikes. The humans also lost many transcendents during this operation. As for the armed forces, even the supreme commander had died heroically. A lieutenant in charge of temporary command thought to himself, "The commander is dead, so all the credit will now belong to me." He then waved his hand and barked an order. "Everyone, Follow me back into the mountains to clear out the remaining beasts. But before he could finish, a root plummeted from the sky and smashed him into the ground. The soldiers were left staring in utter disbelief. That's right, it was me, transformed into a demon from hell. I finally appeared before them. And I had their most respected general hanging high in the air. Everyone run. You're no match for this monster. Hurry, get out of here. But why would I give them a chance to escape? As my roots crashed down, several transcendents were killed instantly. As for the ordinary soldiers nearby, they didn't stand a chance. Everywhere my roots struck, all their weapons were reduced to scrap. Just then, a transcendent shouted to the soldiers behind him. Quick! But before he could finish, my roots swept through and took him out. Humans, none of you are getting away today. I'll make sure you stay here forever. With that, I released countless willow leaf blades, piercing through thousands of soldiers in an instant. At that moment, the humans were terrified. They never imagined a single tree could be this terrifying. Seeing them try to flee, I quickly drove my roots into the ground and lifted tens of thousands of square meters of earth into the sky, roaring. Humans, get out of our territory. Seeing this, General Lee hurriedly shouted, Quick, get out of the way. But facing such a massive slab of earth, how could they possibly dodge it? Then, a thunderous boom echoed throughout the entire canyon. I don't know how much time passed, but by the time Xiaoling finally arrived, the center of the battlefield was completely devoid of life. I held General Lee high before me and shouted angrily, Humans, from this day forward, I will kill as many of you as come. No matter how many of you there are, or how many shells you fire, as long as you dare show your faces before me, I will slaughter every last one of you. General Lee knew his defeat was inevitable, but he still stubbornly insisted that humans would never lose. However, before he could even finish, he was crushed to death by my roots. Then Xiaoling stepped forward and asked, Master, is that you? I looked down at her and spoke slowly. Xiaoqing, you should leave now. No one knows who you are anymore. Seeing her so stubborn, I could only helplessly tell her that my time was running out. I was originally a human too, and you two were supposed to be sisters, but you both unfortunately perished in a disaster. Although you survived in the end, Xiaoqing, you are using Xiaoling's body. Thinking of what happened to you both makes my heart ache. Go back, return to the humans, and live a good life. Promise me that no matter what happens in the future, you'll face it with strength. I have to go. I failed to keep our promise. I'm going to apologize to them. I'm sorry that in the end, I can only leave you to live on alone. Meanwhile, on the other side, the chief looked completely incredulous upon hearing the news. He never imagined that this operational plan would result in the entire army being wiped out. Meanwhile, in a certain area of the sea, a large number of rank 1 transcendent creatures were approaching the mainland. Among them was even a rank 5 transcendent orca king. Just then, in the silent Bayou Canyon, a voice suddenly echoed in my mind. System damaged. Starting backup system. Backup successful. They're here. They're here. Everyone's back. The skin tiger fork has regained its glory. The 3 golden snub-nosed monkey brothers have returned. Xianxin and the others were also successfully resurrected. Even Shangguang and Qing Feng, who had been devoured, returned. At this moment, everyone wept with joy. Finally, everyone could live happily together again. It turns out that just now, when I thought I had died, the voice of the system suddenly rang in my ears again. Ding! System damaged. Starting backup. Hearing this, I was completely stunned. Wait, didn't I die? Where am I now? Then, the system suddenly spoke. You have indeed died. The system has already entered the settlement page. Hearing this, although I was still a bit unwilling, there was nothing I could do. However, the system suddenly stated, although you have died, things are still not over. This world will still continue to function normally. Now, although you as Ziyu have died, your existence as a willow tree has not ended yet. What do you mean? What do you mean by that? I was stunned for a moment. That's right. The system is restarting the backup. Then the system stated that this world will soon face a disaster. You must become the willow god before that happens. During this time, I will grant you powerful strength so that you can survive in this world. Of course, if the day comes when the disaster strikes, you must help us unconditionally. How about it? Are you willing to accept this deal? I was speechless hearing this. Do I even have a choice right now? Seeing that the system stopped talking, I asked curiously, who exactly are you, and what exactly is this disaster you're talking about? After a moment of silence, the system spoke again. You are still too weak right now. Once your strength reaches a certain level, you'll naturally understand. Use you, work hard from now on. Don't let us down. As the system finished speaking, a burst of light suddenly appeared around Xiaoqing in the real world. Then, inside the silent pit. My roots began to slowly grow again. In no time, my roots extended across the entire canyon, bringing back all my companions who had perished in the war, whether it was the skin tiger or the armored wild boar that had lost its heart. As my roots continued to spread, all my companions were soon gathered here. At that moment, in the center of the roots, my main trunk began to grow. I then slowly brought Xiaoqing before me. At this moment, she finally felt my presence again. Xiaoqing closed her eyes and prayed, "Master, please bring everyone back to life." Just as she finished speaking, a surge of immense life energy began to emerge. In a short while, my body grew hundreds of meters taller, and the withered wood began to sprout new buds. Finally, even my 50 willow branches grew back. In just a few moments, I not only successfully reached Transcendent Stage 3, but my form became even more mysterious. Then, I lifted one of the willow branches. Then, I swung a willow leaf blade into the air. In the next second, that flying blade actually shattered the void. Then it reappeared tens of thousands of meters up in space. With a boom, it destroyed a spiritual energy detection satellite. With the satellite's detection gone, I began to release my life essence. When the wounds on Xiaoqing's body touched the life essence, they were all completely healed in an instant. And the other companions present also slowly recovered under the nourishment of the life essence. Ziyu, who had been skinned, regained his former glory. The 3 golden monkey brothers returned once again. Qianxin and the others were also successfully resurrected. Even Shangguang and Qingfeng, who had been devoured, came back. At this moment, everyone wept with joy. Finally, everyone could live happily together again. Seeing them embracing, I was also very happy. Then, I said to them, "We won this war." Hearing this, my companions immediately let out a burst of excited roars. But I immediately told them that I was wrong before. I thought that by remaining neutral, I could avoid conflict. But it only let things escalate to this point. I've let you all down, and I know you're all filled with anger. Since the humans were the ones to strike first, we must make them pay back twofold. Moreover, we need to prove our stance to the humans once again. We'll make sure they never dare set foot here again. At that moment, Emperor Crocodile asked, "Divine Tree, so what should we do now?" After thinking for a moment, I replied, "The humans still don't know that we've been resurrected. So before that happens, we must expand our influence. Right now, we still have too few allies on our side. We need to recruit more companions to join us. So, I want you all to take over that previous mountain range within 5 days. Regardless of whether they have talent. As long as they are exotic beasts, bring them all here. Anyone unwilling to submit should be eliminated immediately." As soon as I finished speaking, all my companions were instantly fired up. Then, I said to Xiaoqing, "You should head back to the humans. After all, I still need intelligence from you over there. In 5 days, when the second spiritual energy recovery occurs, we will launch our attack. Meanwhile, in a certain desert. It's all that Desert King Snake's fault. Wasting so much of my time." All right. Big sister, you've been complaining the whole way. What's wrong with complaining? If it weren't for that snake, I would have seen Master long ago. That's right, the long-lost Red Fox and Demon Bull have returned. It's happening. The Great Tree has finally decided to declare war on the humans. This time, not only has the entire Armored Boar clan joined, but Flash has also convinced the Ant Queen and her army of ants. Even the golden snub-nosed monkey brought over the ape clan. It turns out that in order to grow its power, the Great Tree ordered its companions to conquer the previous mountain range. Once they had all gone, I started checking my current attributes. As a rank 3 transcendent, I can not only cover the entire canyon in mist, but my roots have also grown significantly. Most impressively, I've actually acquired a minor divine ability called crystallization. With a single thought, my roots were instantly covered in a crystalline layer. With this crystallization ability, I no longer have to fear human nuclear bombs. But for safety's sake, I continued to strengthen my innate talent. After all, as long as my regeneration is strong enough, I can still be reborn from any remaining parts, even if my main body is destroyed. Just then, a thumping sound suddenly echoed from within my body. It turns out that after strengthening my innate talent, a tree heart had actually grown inside me. Great. As long as my main body and tree heart aren't destroyed simultaneously, I'll be an immortal being. Right then, Ling suddenly appeared and said she had found some information about General Li. It turns out General Li was a sword cultivator awakener from the previous era. It said that thousands of years ago, countless cultivators reached the realm of great divine abilities. But just as they attempted to defy heaven and change their fate, they were suddenly suppressed, and their souls were shattered, leaving them unable to ever be reincarnated. Someone like General Li who had mediocre talent, actually managed to escape this disaster. As for those ancient cultivators with great divine abilities, they all perished and eventually became legends. But now that spiritual energy is reviving once again, those cultivators have all been reincarnated across this land. Hearing this, I couldn't help but fall into deep thought. Is this the disaster the system was talking about? At that moment, Xiaoling mentioned that the second spiritual power tide is about to arrive, so the humans won't be making any moves for a while. Meanwhile, over in the mountains, Shangguang walked fearlessly into a massive ant nest. Just then, a mutant red ant suddenly attacked him. But with a simple wave of his hand, that giant red ant was instantly finished off. Shangguang then calmly declared, "Submit and live, or die. The choice is yours." Just as he finished speaking, the Ant Queen slowly emerged from the cave. Facing Shangguang's overwhelming pressure, the Ant Queen had no choice but to submit. The scene then shifts to the golden snub-nosed monkey, who found a gathering place for a group of apes. Being fellow primates, they wisely chose to join him. Meanwhile, the honey badger found various poisonous insects, snakes, and ants. The armored wild boar also successfully persuaded its entire clan. As for the white tiger, it suppressed various magical beasts through sheer force. And finally, there is the mantis, Qingfeng. Its return marks the beginning of the mantis clan's revival. After a few peaceful days, one day I suddenly discovered that an elemental flower had grown on my torso again. But now that bull demon is gone, who should I give this flower to? Then I thought of Qinggang, who was still building the dungeon. "Here, take this elemental flower and eat it." Hearing this, Qinggang didn't hesitate for a moment and took a bite. The next second, his body began to emit a dazzling golden light. Ding! Elemental life awakened. Rank, Transcendent First Stage. Can manipulate the power of the earth for their own use. At this moment, Qinggang looked completely incredulous. He then knelt on one knee and pledged his loyalty to me. After I finished helping him increase his strength, it was also time to start upgrading my own skills again. As my roots slowly emerged from underground. After a year, I, at Transcendent Third Stage, was finally able to walk freely today. At this time, Jingji beside me said, "Congratulations, Master, on your further increase in strength. But by releasing spiritual power so blatantly, aren't you afraid the humans will attack here again? Don't worry, the spiritual tide will erupt in 3 days, so they won't have time to deal with us right now." Just as I finished speaking, my companions began to return one after another. Looking at the various exotic beasts they brought back, I didn't expect the haul to be this huge. I then told them, "In 3 days, we begin our attack on the human cities." An ordinary-looking tree is actually able to command every animal in the canyon, and it even announced an attack on human cities in 3 days. Jingji immediately knelt to pledge her loyalty. I then rewarded her with a drop of life essence. In an instant, Jingji jumped from entry level 6 to level 9, and even awakened a special skill called Seed of Vitality. Seeing this, I quickly ordered her to go and recruit more companions. Meanwhile, over in the mountains, the Emperor Crocodile ran into some trouble. It turned out he had encountered a Transcendence level 1 mutant hedgehog. The white crane in the sky had a much easier time, as overlords of the air are few and far between. However, at the entrance of a certain cave, Qinggang looked deeply troubled. This was because he had encountered a terrifying Transcendence level 2 creature. Knowing he was no match, Qinggang decided to run back and warn the divine tree. But just then, a terrifying force suddenly blasted him away. Before Qinggang could even react, the beast roared, "Since you're already here, why be in such a hurry to leave?" On the other side, after those recruited animals passed through the spiritual spring, not only did their strength increase, but they all willingly submitted to me. Among these animals, the one I'm most optimistic about is this first-order Transcendent Mutant Hedgehog. This is because its skill list includes a Lifeblood Thorn skill that hurts the enemy by 1,000 but damages the user by 800. Seeing this, I was like, wow. It seems the strength of these animals shouldn't be underestimated. Just then, I suddenly felt a terrifying spiritual power approaching. Judging by the pressure, the opponent was at least at the second-order Transcendent level. But when they got closer, they discovered that the terrifying aura was actually coming from a panda. The panda just kept chatting away the whole way, asking things like whether Ninetales really has 9 tails, or whether Flash prefers thorns or mantises. Hearing these questions, Qingfeng was speechless. But since he couldn't beat the panda, he decided to hurry back to the divine tree before he was tortured to death. However, just then, the panda suddenly stopped and said, "Divine tree, since you're already here, why bother hiding?" Hearing this, I stopped pretending. I immediately popped up from underground. I didn't expect this little panda, who looked so cute and dazed, to have a spiritual power value as terrifyingly high as 300,000. Soon, I brought them back to my base. And when the panda saw everything here, it couldn't help but let out a gasp of admiration. Then, it pulled out a basket of fire spirit stones and said, "Consider these a greeting gift." It turns out that inside the cave where it lived, there was actually a hidden, massive vein of fire spirit stones. But since I accepted its gift, it was only natural that I give something in return. I then gave it the monkey wine I got from the golden monkey, watching the panda down the wine in one gulp. The golden monkey looked absolutely heartbroken. But, trading one jar of wine for a super fighter of Transcendence rank 3 is a win no matter how you calculate it. Then I said to it, "Since you love drinking so much, why not stay? From today on, you'll be the 9th of my 9 great ferocious beasts, named Wine Immortal." Meanwhile, on the human side, the leaders of various countries held another federal meeting. At that moment, an assistant stepped forward to report, "For a period of time moving forward, we must implement proper protective measures, because the spiritual power tide is about to arrive. At that time, all plants and animals will undergo frantic evolution." Then, the chief suddenly spoke. "Go and spread the news about the spiritual power tide. And the spiritual energy cultivation methods must also be popularized. What about the ancient martial arts side? Haven't they made any move? Don't tell me they still aren't planning to act. Those old geezers are currently enjoying the evolution brought by spiritual energy. Why would they have time to care whether we live or die? There are only 3 days left until the spiritual energy tide arrives. I wonder what the world will look like then." It's happening. Ziyu actually grew a pair of wings. Flathead Brother also evolved to Transcendence level 1. Even the white crane and the peregrine falcon broke through to entry level 9. As it turns out, just a moment ago, countless spiritual energy surged up from beneath my roots. It's likely that the previous spiritual energy missiles pierced through the Earth's core, accelerating the arrival of the spiritual energy tide. So, I gathered all my buddies in the canyon and announced, "From now on, I will guide the spiritual energy to the surface ahead of time. But if you can't handle this surge of energy, your bodies will explode. So, if you aren't confident, you can leave now." Just as I finished speaking, my buddies were instantly fired up. Seeing that they had no intention of backing down, I immediately released the spiritual energy from the Earth's core. In an instant, Shangguang and Qingfeng felt their strength increase significantly. And the gorilla, King Kong, even showed signs of a breakthrough. However, some wind wolves, due to their lack of strength, were suddenly blown apart by the spiritual energy with a loud bang. After seeing this, some of the weaker exotic beasts immediately fled the area. Just then, the honey badger in the distance suddenly released a terrifying aura. A pair of beautiful wings grew from its back. Such a terrifying spiritual energy aura also triggered a significant beast tide. Watching the beast charging at me, I thought, during the last beast tide, I only gained 147 evolution points. So how many will they bring me this time? 1,000, 10,000, or maybe even 1,000,000? Meanwhile, on the human side, the spiritual energy satellite detected that the energy in Bayou Canyon was constantly rising. Seeing this, the person in charge hurriedly ordered the surveillance footage from Bayou Canyon. However, the subordinate reported that the satellite responsible for monitoring had lost contact. Damn it, according to the readings, the spiritual energy in Bayou Canyon has reached a terrifying 800,000. To think that instead of eliminating it last time, we actually made it stronger. The scene returns to Bayou Canyon. By now, the beast tide had basically ended. During this tide, I not only gained 720,000 evolution points, but also captured many promising exotic beasts. Especially these two right here. They actually have ancestral bloodlines. One is an ancestral giant mammoth. The other is an ancestral giant dinosaur. In ancient times, these ferocious beasts were absolute overlords. Of course, besides them, there are also these numerous transcendent creatures. I can keep them and train them over time. Just as I was deciding which one to start with, I heard Ninetails and Bull Demon calling from the distance. I was thrilled to see them back. Especially Ninetails, who not only evolved to Transcendent rank 1, but also grew an extra tail. Could this little girl have inherited the bloodline of the ancient nine-tailed fox? Bull Demon stepped forward and asked, "Why has the canyon become like this?" I then told them everything about the humans. After hearing how the humans couldn't tolerate us, Bull Demon asked, "Lord Divine Tree, are you planning to build your own empire?" Exactly. The spiritual energy tide will fully erupt in a single day. When that happens, I'll announce to the world that we exotic beasts are not to be messed with. And just like that, a day passed. The moment the spiritual energy tide arrived, all plants and animals began to evolve frantically. Some humans couldn't handle the surge of energy and completely vanished from the world. But those who survived gained even greater power. However, compared to that, in the forest, the spiritual energy was even more abundant. Some exotic beasts couldn't withstand this power, so they headed toward the cities where the energy was thinner. Meanwhile, in the country of Bach, soldiers were fighting to the death on the city walls as hordes of exotic beasts relentlessly charged them. But just then, a giant several hundred meters tall suddenly crashed through and collapsed a section of the wall. Similarly, a city in the country of Gotzi had already been overrun by wolf packs. And in the skies above Korean cities, countless mutant bee queens appeared. Finally, there was the Free Federation. When facing the beasts, they didn't hesitate to drop nuclear bombs on their own cities. As a massive mushroom cloud rose from the city, the secretary hurriedly reported that the nuke had wiped out at least 80% of the beasts. But we still have 5 cities under attack. Are we really going to nuke them all? Hearing this, the president couldn't help but break into a cold sweat. Meanwhile, in the Huaxiao Federation, a backpacker was exploring Bayou Canyon. Just then, a magnificent, towering tree caught his attention. It's angry. This time, the tree is truly furious. In a mere heartbeat, its roots shrouded an entire human city. It turns out that after humans discovered the big tree in the canyon wasn't dead, they immediately called an emergency meeting. A woman stood up and spoke. With the arrival of the spiritual energy tide, the tree in Bayou Canyon seems to have become even stronger. Preliminary estimates suggest its spiritual energy value has reached a terrifying 1.8 million. Damn it, this demon tree has killed so many of our transcendents. Now, even General Lee has fallen in battle. And since the ancient martial arts families won't help, our only option now is to use H-bombs for the strike. The scene returns to Bayou Canyon. At this moment, I had no idea the humans were targeting me again. I looked at the 700,000 evolution points I had just acquired. All my basic attack skills have already been upgraded to level 3. After thinking it over, I decided to use the evolution points on the hallucination skill. Although it cost 30,000 evolution points, the enhanced hallucination, combined with the mist beasts, will make my strength even more terrifying. Just as I was thinking about which skill to upgrade next, several missiles suddenly appeared in the sky, speeding toward me. Oh no, these are human H-weapon missiles. I immediately told my companions to hide in the underground city. Then, I launched countless willow leaf flying knives at the H-weapon missiles in the sky. In an instant, my flying knives accurately sliced into those missiles. Then, loud explosions thundered through the air. The intense shockwaves terrified my friends. Although those missiles exploded midair, for some reason, I still felt a lingering sense of unease. Then, as the mist in the air slowly cleared, suddenly, an ICBM several times larger than the previous missiles barreled straight toward me. I didn't expect those first few missiles to be mere decoys. The real killing blow was the ICBM that followed right after. As a massive mushroom cloud rose above Bayou Canyon, all the surrounding peaks were instantly leveled to the ground. In the command room, after seeing the ICBM explode, the people in the meeting room all breathed a sigh of relief. But just then, a woman suddenly cried out in terror, "Quick, look!" As the dust from the explosion slowly settled, a root completely encased in crystals reappeared in everyone's sight. The marshal was speechless with disbelief. How is this possible? Even H-weapons have no effect on it. That's right. Now that I possess the crystallization minor divine ability, I no longer fear any H-weapons. Humans, you're seeking death. Fine, I'll grant your wish. With that, I activated my earth element talent. In an instant, the surrounding city felt a violent earthquake. Although I used crystallization to block the impact of the H-weapon, the searing heat still left me feeling quite miserable. Just then, Xiaoling floated over and asked, "Master, are you okay?" "I'm fine, don't worry." But now, it's time to have a little chat with the humans. Here it comes. The great tree has finally begun its counterattack against the human cities. In just the blink of an eye, countless roots enveloped the skies above the human cities. As it turns out, just moments ago, some beasts that couldn't handle the eruption of the spiritual tide began marching toward the human cities. Meanwhile, on the outskirts of Maple Leaf City, a large number of soldiers were fighting desperately on the city walls. But human thermal weapons were simply insignificant in the face of these beasts. Some beasts even smashed a hole right through the wall. At this critical moment, a transcendent suddenly descended from the sky. With just a single strike of his blade, he took down that massive beast on the ground. Then, he shouted to the people on the wall, "Leave the beasts below to me. You guys focus on the ones outside the city." As one of the first batch of awakened transcendents, Old Lee was also seeing a scene like this for the first time. Just then, the heavy weaponry on the wall was finally loaded. Following a series of loud booms, the soldiers suddenly felt half their pressure lift. However, there were simply too many of these beasts. If they wanted to hold Maple Leaf City, they would have to wipe them all out. Just as Old Lee was wondering which beast to start with, a loud rumbling sound suddenly erupted from the ground. Old Lee was startled by the noise. What's going on? Is it an earthquake? But before he could think it through, he saw the surrounding beasts all fleeing backward. In just a moment, all the beasts had retreated from the city walls. Seeing this, the soldiers thought they had successfully scared them off. But only Old Lee knew that their crisis was far from over. Sure enough, a thick white mist suddenly emerged around the city walls. In no time, the mist covered the entire Maple Leaf City. Just then, a soldier pointed ahead, his face filled with terror. Following his gaze, a tree root suddenly descended from the sky. That's right, it was me, leading my companions to attack. From the white tiger and ox demon on the ground to the white crane and peregrine falcon in the sky, we from Bayou Canyon have practically come out in full force. All to announce one thing to the humans: that this world is no longer yours to control. Such a spectacular sight made Old Lee break out in a cold sweat. Especially that giant tree in the center, which gave him an oppressive feeling, as if he were sinking into the deep sea. Facing such terrifying creatures, he had absolutely no chance of fighting back. He immediately shouted to the soldiers beside him, "Run! You are no match for these beasts." But why would I give them a chance to escape? With a single thought, the city wall was blown away as if it were made of paper. Then, my roots began to advance toward the city behind. In just a few breaths, my roots blanketed the entire sky above Maple Leaf City. Seeing this, the humans cried out that it was the end.